Dear friends, are you ready to rest, not just your body, but your mind? Let the timeless wisdom of the Buddha guide your heart home. Tonight, as the world turns beneath 1,000 tiny lights, you lie here, in the quiet glow of another unfinished day. The messages are read but not answered. The tasks are done but not complete. And the thoughts, they still keep moving, like waves that refuse to rest even when the ocean sleeps. Maybe you felt it lately, that strange heaviness that doesn't come from your body, but from the constant need to be okay. We live in a world that teaches us to fix everything, to chase success, love, peace, even happiness, as if they were medals we could hang on the wall. But what if the reason we can't find peace is because we never learned how to stop searching for it? The Buddha once spoke of a house on fire, a place where people kept playing with their little toys while the smoke thickened around them. He said that this fire was not made of wood or flame, but of craving, anger, and ignorance. The three fires that burn quietly in every human heart. And yet he did not condemn the people for being lost. He simply showed them the way out. That's what tonight is about. To see the unseen fire that flickers behind our busyness, and to remember that peace has always been waiting, right where the noise ends. So as you listen, let your breath soften. Let your shoulders fall. You don't have to fix or prove anything tonight. You don't have to understand everything either. Just listen. Let the stories guide you like a lantern in the dark, each one whispering a truth that cannot be taught, only remembered. And if, in these moments, you find a small corner of stillness where the world feels kind again, I warmly invite you to subscribe and return whenever your mind forgets how to rest. Here, you will always be welcome. No judgment, no pressure, only gentle reminders that you are already enough. Now, take one more deep breath. Let the night hold you like water holds the moon. We're about to begin our first story. The one about a fire you cannot see and the peace you never really lost. The fire we don't see. There is a kind of fire that does not destroy forests or homes. It burns quietly in the corners of our lives, hidden beneath the noise we call normal. It flickers behind polite smiles, inside long meetings, and in the silence of a phone that never stops glowing. You can't see it, but you feel it. A subtle heat under your skin, a restless pulse that says you should be doing more, earning more, becoming more. This is the fire we don't see, and in many ways it is the most dangerous kind, because it does not scare us. It seduces us. You wake up in the morning already behind. You scroll through other people's lives before you've even lived your own. You rush through breakfast, answer messages, make promises, chase deadlines. And when the day finally ends, you lie down, but your mind is still running. Even in rest, you are burning. The Buddha called this invisible fire dukkha, a word that means suffering, unease, or simply the feeling that something is never quite right. It is not punishment or karma. It is the natural result of grasping for what cannot stay. We feed this fire with our expectations, our comparisons, our constant desire for control. We tell ourselves, when I finish this project, I'll rest. When I make enough money, I'll be free. When I'm loved, I'll be whole. And yet, each time we arrive at what we wanted, peace slips away like water through open fingers. Have you noticed that? The more we chase stillness, the faster it runs. The harder we try to be in control, the more chaotic life becomes. It's as if the universe is gently whispering, "You were never meant to hold the fire, only to see it for what it is." There was once a man who worked so hard that he forgot why he started. He told himself he was doing it for his family, for stability, for love. But slowly, his laughter faded. He came home late, ate standing up, and fell asleep with the lights still on. When his body finally gave in and he had to rest, he felt an emptiness so deep that it frightened him. He realized then that he hadn't been building a life. He had been building a fire. Each late night, each unspoken fear, each "I'll be happy when" was a match he struck against his own heart. And when the fire burned too bright, it left him with nothing but ashes of exhaustion. He thought the world had betrayed him, but in truth, he had betrayed his own peace. The Buddha taught that our suffering begins the moment we forget the nature of things. Everything we love, everything we fear, everything we touch is impermanent. We know this, and yet we live as if the world should stay the same, as if people should never leave, as if youth should never fade, as if time should wait for us to be ready. That is the illusion. That is the fire. You may not be able to stop the flames of change, but you can stop pouring fuel onto them. Every time you insist that life must go a certain way, the fire grows. Every time you soften and whisper, "Maybe this too is okay," the fire cools. So tonight, you are not asked to fight your restlessness or to solve the puzzle of your mind. You are simply asked to see it, to recognize the heat of wanting, the smoke of worry, the sparks of regret. Notice them as they rise and fall, like embers in the dark. The moment you see them clearly, you are no longer inside the burning house. You are standing at the doorway, breathing. There is a simple practice you can try now. Take a breath, slow, unhurried, soft. Feel the air as it enters your lungs, cool and alive. And as you exhale, imagine releasing the smoke of all your thoughts. You don't need to push them away. Just let them rise, drift, and fade. The mind will wander. That's what minds do. But awareness does not wander. It watches, it understands, it forgives. Awareness is the cool earth beneath the fire. It is the space that holds both the flame and the ashes untouched by either. When you learn to rest in awareness, even your pain becomes gentle. The fire still burns, but it no longer burns you. Perhaps that is what the Buddha meant by liberation. Not the escape from life, but freedom within it. Freedom to feel without drowning, to love without clinging, to work without being consumed. You might wonder, how can something so simple be so powerful? Because simplicity is what the fire fears most. The mind loves complexity. It feeds on confusion. But awareness thrives in stillness. When you stop running, the flames have nowhere to spread. Look back on your day for a moment. How many fires did you build without realizing it? The irritation at traffic, the disappointment in a conversation, the tension when you looked in the mirror, each moment of resistance, each "this shouldn't be happening" was a small spark. None of them alone could destroy you, but together they kept your heart too warm to rest. Now imagine cooling that warmth into calm. You don't need ice, only honesty. A quiet acknowledgement that life does not owe us certainty, and peace does not require perfection. Peace is what remains when we stop arguing with reality. Let tonight be the night you stop arguing. Let this story be your permission to stop holding everything together. Nothing terrible will happen if you rest. The world will keep spinning, the stars will keep shining, and maybe, just maybe, things will quietly begin to heal without your control. Take another breath. Feel how even your thoughts start to slow down when you listen to them with kindness. The fire is still there, yes. The responsibilities, the plans, the unanswered questions. But now you see it for what it is, and what is seen clearly cannot burn you anymore. In this moment, you are safe. You are allowed to rest. You have always been allowed. Peace is not somewhere else. It's not a reward waiting at the end of effort. It is the coolness in your next breath, the softness in your heart when you stop demanding more from yourself. It has been here all along, whispering quietly beneath the noise. You can let go now. And so, as you breathe in, imagine the fire shrinking. As you breathe out, imagine the ashes settling gently to the ground. Every exhale is an act of release. Every pause between breaths is the space of enlightenment, the gap where craving disappears. This is the fire we don't see, and this is how it ends. Not with force, but with understanding. Because understanding is the water that cools everything it touches, and awareness is the home that no flame can reach. Tonight, you have taken your first step out of the burning house. You have begun to see the fire for what it truly is. Not your enemy, not your punishment, but your teacher. Now, as we move forward, let us look deeper into the story that began it all. The story of a father, a burning house, and a lesson in compassion that still guides the world today. The father's wisdom. There was once a father who lived in a small wooden house at the edge of a quiet village. He had 3 young children, curious, playful, full of questions. The house was old, and one summer afternoon, while the father was working in the garden, smoke began to rise from the kitchen. A small spark caught a curtain, then spread across the dry beams of the roof. Within moments, the entire house was wrapped in flame. The father looked up and saw the smoke curling through the open windows. He could hear the laughter of his children still playing inside. They hadn't noticed the danger. Their world was made of toys and imagination. He called out to them, but they didn't respond. The fire crackled louder. In his heart, panic began to rise like a tide. He could not reach them in time. And so, the father did something strange. He stopped shouting. He steadied his breath. Then, in a calm voice, he called out, "Children, come outside quickly. There are new toys waiting for you. Beautiful carts to ride in, each one better than the last." The children's eyes widened with excitement. They dropped their toys and ran toward the door. And when they stepped outside, gasping from the smoke, the father lifted them into his arms and carried them away. The house behind them collapsed into ash, but the children were safe. That simple story was told by the Buddha more than 2,000 years ago. It was never about wood or smoke. It was about compassion, the kind of love that acts with wisdom instead of fear. You see, the father didn't save his children by shouting louder. He saved them by understanding what would reach their hearts. He knew that truth alone wasn't enough. The children couldn't understand fire. They only understood toys. So he used love disguised as a story, a compassionate deception that led them towards safety. This is what the Buddha called upaya, or skillful means. It means meeting people where they are, not where we wish they would be. Sometimes wisdom doesn't look like logic. Sometimes it looks like patience, like gentle timing, like silence when anger would be easier. How often in our own lives do we try to save others by shouting? We raise our voices to be heard. We push our opinions. We believe that if we just explain harder, they'll understand. But love shouted is rarely love received, and truth forced is often truth rejected. Think of a moment when someone you cared about was lost in their own fire. A friend drowning in sadness, a partner trapped in anger, a child chasing something harmful. You wanted to help, to rescue them from their suffering, but your words became sparks instead of water. That's when the Father's wisdom matters most. He didn't try to prove he was right. He didn't tell his children how dangerous they were being. He simply spoke in a way they could understand. He used what they loved to lead them toward what would save them. In that choice lies the deepest compassion, the willingness to let go of pride for the sake of another's awakening. It's not manipulation, it's mercy. The Buddha said that all of us are like the children in that burning house. We play among the flames of desire and fear, thinking our toys will protect us. We believe we have time. We think tomorrow is guaranteed. And still, the fire grows. The fire of craving, the fire of anger, the fire of ignorance. Yet just as the Father called his children, wisdom is always calling us. It speaks softly through life itself. A loss that humbles us, a failure that slows us down, a small kindness that melts our defenses. These are not punishments, they are invitations, ways the universe whispers, "Come out, child, there is something better waiting." Every moment of pain can be a message, every disappointment a doorway, but we only hear them when we stop trying to shout over them. Sometimes, it takes quiet to recognize compassion disguised as loss. A few years ago, a woman wrote about how she lost her job and thought her life was falling apart. She said, "It felt like my house was burning." But months later, she realized she had been stuck for years in work that drained her spirit. Losing it forced her to rediscover herself, to write, to rest, to live honestly. What she thought was punishment was actually rescue. Life had used fire to guide her home. That is the Father's wisdom working through the world. The Father is not a man, not even a God. It is the compassion of reality itself. It's what pulls you back every time you wander too far from truth. It's the hand that opens a door just when everything seems lost. When you learn to trust that compassion, you begin to see that nothing is against you, not even the fires that scare you most. The Buddha often said, "Hatred never ends through hatred. Only through love does hatred cease." The Father could have cursed the fire, blamed the world, or drowned in fear, but he acted with clarity. He let love guide his intelligence. And that is what it means to be awake. Not to escape the burning house, but to remember that even in the midst of fire, you can choose compassion. In our daily lives, this might look like something simple. A parent listening instead of lecturing, a friend forgiving instead of arguing, an employee smiling at a stranger instead of rushing by. Small moments, easily overlooked, and yet each one is a tiny step toward enlightenment. Because enlightenment isn't somewhere far away. It begins right here, in the choice to respond with patience instead of panic. If you ever wonder whether your kindness matters, remember the Father's story. The children never understood what he had done for them. They simply ran outside, grateful for their new toys, while the Father watched the flames with quiet relief. He didn't need to be thanked. He didn't even need to be remembered. His joy was in their safety. True compassion asks for nothing in return. It acts, not for reward, but from understanding. Because when you truly see that everyone is fighting their own invisible fire, how can you not be gentle? Maybe the next time someone disappoints you, you'll pause and ask, what are they burning in? And instead of anger, you might find empathy. Instead of judgment, understanding. That is how the world begins to heal, one quiet act of wisdom at a time. You are not responsible for saving everyone, but you can speak kindly. You can breathe before reacting. You can use your own pain as a reminder that others are in pain too. That's how compassion spreads, not through sermons, but through example. The fire of awareness touching another heart until all the world begins to glow with understanding. And if you ever forget this, remember, the Father's wisdom lives in you too. Each time you choose patience over pride, each time you meet cruelty with calm, each time you let go instead of clinging, you become the voice that calls others out of their burning houses. This is how the lineage of compassion continues, not through blood or ritual, but through presence, kindness, and the courage to love when fear would be easier. So tonight, as you lie beneath the quiet sky, perhaps you can feel that wisdom moving through you. A quiet pulse in your chest. A warmth that isn't fire but light. You don't need to understand it. You only need to trust it. Because love guided by wisdom never burns. It only illuminates. Now, as you breathe, let that light soften your heart and follow me into the next reflection. A story about the games we play that keep us asleep and how awakening sometimes begins with laughter. The games that keep us asleep. We live in a world that never stops entertaining us. Screens glow in every corner. Songs fill every silence. And news travels faster than thought. We are constantly connected, and yet deeply disconnected. The Buddha might have called it a new kind of dream. A dazzling illusion that keeps us busy enough to forget we're asleep. It's not the toys of childhood anymore. It's the games of adulthood. Endless scrolling, endless comparison, endless proving. We call it life, but often it's just a way to avoid being still. Do you remember how, as a child, you could play for hours and lose all sense of time? That same instinct still lives in us, but now it's tangled with fear. We play not for joy, but for distraction. We play the game of success, the game of attention, the game of perfection, each one promising happiness, yet each one keeping us a little further from peace. A man once told me that he couldn't bear silence. He said, "When it's quiet, my thoughts get too loud." So he filled every moment with sound. Podcasts, music, chatter, noise. When he finally tried to meditate, he said it felt unbearable. Not because silence is cruel, but because he had forgotten how to be with himself. The games we play are not evil. They are just smoke. Thin, shimmering distractions that keep us from noticing the fire underneath. The Buddha called this ignorance avidya. Not stupidity, but forgetting. Forgetting that we already have what we keep chasing. Forgetting that we are enough even when no one is watching. Forgetting that the point of life is not to win, but to awaken. The world tells us the opposite. Win more, have more, be more, and so we play. Collecting achievements like trophies, counting followers like prayers, measuring worth by how loudly others applaud. But deep inside, there's a quiet voice that knows. It whispers when you're tired. It calls out in the middle of the night when you can't sleep. It asks softly, "Is this really what you wanted?" That voice is your awakening knocking from within. It doesn't condemn the games. It simply invites you to see through them. One evening, a monk walked through a marketplace where vendors shouted and children ran laughing. He stopped beside a small stall selling painted masks. Each mask had a smile, a frown, a glare, or a grin. He asked the vendor, "Do you sell faces for every mood?" The vendor laughed. "Almost. Everyone buys the smiling ones." The monk smiled back and said, "Ah, I see. People must be very tired of holding their own. We too wear masks. Smiles that hide exhaustion, confidence that covers confusion, sarcasm that conceals pain. We think these masks protect us, but really they separate us. They are the rules of the game. Pretend, perform, impress." But the Buddha taught that every game ends the same way, with waking up. You can only play for so long before the illusion starts to crack. The laughter fades, the trophies lose their shine, the praise grows quiet. And suddenly, you are face to face with yourself, the self you've been avoiding under all that noise. For some, this moment feels like a breakdown, but in truth, it's a breakthrough. It's the mind realizing that all its toys are made of smoke. And when the smoke clears, what remains is real awareness, breath, and love. When you stop chasing entertainment, life itself becomes entertainment. The sound of rain becomes a song. The rhythm of your breath becomes music. The silence of your heart becomes a stage where peace performs its quiet dance. If you look around, you'll notice that much of the world's suffering is born from these games. Nations competing for dominance, people competing for wealth, even relationships turning into quiet contests of who gives less, who loves less, who cares less. It's all a performance, a way of saying, "I'm winning." But no one wins in a dream. They simply wake up. Awakening doesn't mean rejecting the world. It means seeing through it, smiling at it, and using it wisely. The Buddha himself lived among people, ate with them, laughed with them. He didn't run away from life. He saw it clearly. That clarity made him free. So what would it mean for us to play differently? To live not as players trying to win, but as witnesses enjoying the play. Perhaps it begins by noticing the moment you reach for your phone without thinking. Or the moment you tell a story about yourself to sound impressive. Or the moment you chase comfort instead of truth. Those moments are doors. Tiny awakenings hidden inside daily life. Each time you notice one, the game loosens its hold on you. That's the beauty of awareness. You don't have to quit the game. You just have to realize it's a game, and suddenly, it loses its power to control you. A young student once asked a Zen teacher, "Master, if life is an illusion, why should we care about anything?" The teacher smiled and said, "Because compassion is the only thing that is not an illusion. That is the hidden key. When we play life's games from compassion instead of craving, they transform into practice. Work becomes service. Relationships become lessons. Even mistakes become teachers. When you remember compassion, you stop playing to win and start playing to understand. That shift from ambition to awareness is the essence of waking up. And yet, awakening is not glamorous. It's simple. It's the quiet moment when you pause before reacting, when you breathe instead of blaming, when you smile at someone who doesn't smile back. Each small moment of mindfulness is like opening your eyes a little wider in a long, sweet dream. You begin to see the game for what it is: temporary, beautiful, and not to be taken too seriously. As night deepens, notice how your thoughts also begin to soften. The mind, like a child after play, grows tired. It doesn't need more toys, it needs rest. Let the images of the day drift away like sand through open fingers. You don't have to chase them or push them aside. They will dissolve on their own when you stop feeding them attention. You have played enough today. You have proven enough. You have done enough. Now, rest in the space behind all games, the silence that watches, the awareness that smiles. Here, there is nothing to win or lose, only peace watching itself unfold. And perhaps in this stillness, you'll understand what the Buddha meant when he said, "Within the still mind, all illusions burn away." Because the fire that keeps you restless isn't outside you. It's the constant need to play. And once you stop, you'll find that there was never anything to escape, only something to see. So tonight, let your mind be a field after the harvest, quiet, open, waiting for rain. The world will keep spinning. The noise will return when morning comes. But for now, in this moment, you are free to rest. You've stepped outside the house of games. You've opened the door to awareness, and the night welcomes you with silence that feels like home. Now, as you breathe softly, follow me to the next story, a reflection on truth, compassion, and the strange mercy of illusion. It's called The Lie That Saved Them. The lie that saved them. Sometimes truth alone cannot save us. It must wear the gentle disguise of kindness first. This is what the Buddha meant when he spoke of skillful means, wisdom guided by compassion. In the story of the burning house, the father didn't tell his children, "You are in danger." He didn't say, "Run or you'll die." He said, "Come outside. There are new toys waiting for you." And because of that small, tender lie, they lived. The world often praises honesty as the highest virtue, and yes, truth is sacred. But even truth, when spoken without understanding, can wound more deeply than any lie. A sharp truth spoken at the wrong time is like sunlight on a seed that hasn't yet sprouted. It burns what it could have nurtured. The Buddha knew this. That's why he spoke differently to each person. A warrior, a mother, a child, a king. He met them not with dogma, but with compassion shaped like language they could understand. He didn't shout truth from the mountaintop. He whispered it in the language of their pain. That is why the Father's lie was not a betrayal. It was love in translation. And love, translated into wisdom, becomes salvation. There was once a young monk who asked his teacher, "Master, is it ever right to lie?" The old teacher smiled and said, "If a lie saves a life, is it still false?" The monk frowned, confused. "But the Buddha taught us to tell the truth." "Yes," the master replied. "But he also taught us to save others from suffering. When truth and kindness meet, compassion decides which one must bow." The monk pondered this for years before he understood. It wasn't about lying or truth-telling. It was about intention. If your heart is pure, your words become medicine. If your heart is clouded, even truth becomes poison. We live in a world that mistakes bluntness for honesty. People say, "I'm just telling it like it is," when what they really mean is, "I'm speaking without compassion." They confuse cruelty for clarity, but wisdom is never cruel. True wisdom knows when silence teaches more than words, and when gentleness opens more hearts than logic ever could. Think of a doctor. If he tells a frightened patient every possible risk before surgery, the truth might paralyze rather than prepare them. But if he says, "You will be okay, I'll take care of you," the patient relaxes and the healing begins. That too is a compassionate lie, not meant to deceive, but to soothe, to make space for trust. Maybe you've done the same in your own way, told a friend you're going to be all right, even when you didn't know for sure. Held someone's hand and said, "It will get better," even when your heart was trembling too. Those words were not lies, they were love trying to speak through fear. And that love has more truth in it than any fact ever will. The Father's wisdom teaches us that honesty without empathy can be just another form of fire. It burns without light, but when truth passes through compassion, it becomes warm, gentle enough to guide even the lost. In the West, people often speak of speaking your truth. It's a beautiful idea, but the Buddha would add one more step. Speak your truth, but check if your truth brings peace. If it doesn't, maybe it's not ready to be spoken. There's a story of a king who once asked the Buddha, "What is the most powerful word?" The Buddha replied, "A word that brings peace to the listener." The king frowned. "And what if peace requires silence?" The Buddha smiled. "Then silence is the word." So much of our suffering today comes not from lies, but from truth spoken without love. Social media is filled with sharp truths, but few hearts healed by them. People correct, argue, expose, but rarely listen, rarely understand. It's as if everyone wants to be the father in the story, but few have his patience, and fewer still have his love. The father didn't shout his truth. He whispered what his children could hear. He didn't force them to awaken. He invited them to follow joy. That's what makes his wisdom eternal. Sometimes we think we must shock people into change, that awakening must come through pain. But the Buddha never said that suffering was the only teacher. He said it was the beginning, and compassion was the way through. Even the hardest truths can bloom softly when wrapped in kindness. It's not deceit, it's grace. It's understanding that sometimes the path to awakening must be walked with bare feet, and compassion lays down petals so it won't hurt as much. A woman once came to the Buddha, her child dead in her arms, her grief unbearable. She cried, "Please bring him back to life." The Buddha didn't say, "That's impossible." He didn't explain death, impermanence, or karma. He said, "Bring me a handful of mustard seeds from a house where no one has ever lost a loved one." The woman went from door to door. At every house she heard the same reply: "We would give you the seeds, but we too have known loss." By the end of the day, she returned empty-handed, but she understood. Death had not singled her out. It was the nature of life. The Buddha never denied her pain. He transformed it through compassion. That is the art of a gentle lie. Truth softened into love so it can be heard. We are all learning this art in small ways. When you forgive someone who doesn't deserve it, you are practicing skillful means. When you let go of an argument you could have won, you are walking the Buddha's path of compassion. When you tell your heart, "It's okay, you're safe," even when the world feels uncertain, you are speaking the lie that heals, until one day it becomes truth. Because peace is contagious. When one heart softens, the world softens around it, and that is how the fires begin to fade. Not with force, but with mercy. The father in the story never explained himself to his children. He didn't tell them, "I lied to save you." He just smiled as they played in the sunlight, safe, unaware of what had almost been lost. And perhaps that is what love looks like. To save without needing credit, to give without needing to be known. Maybe tonight, There is someone in your life still playing inside their own burning house. Maybe they won't hear you if you shout, but they might listen if you speak gently. If you love them where they are, instead of where you wish they'd be. Your words don't have to be perfect. They just have to be kind. The Buddha once said, "A wise person speaks only when their words are more beautiful than silence." So let your words tonight be like soft rain, falling quietly, nourishing what is ready to grow. And when silence feels more healing than speech, let silence do the work. Because the truth that saves us all is not always the one that sounds the most righteous. It's the one that sounds like love. Now, as the night grows deeper and the fires of the day fade to ember, let this story rest in your heart. Let it remind you that compassion and wisdom are never separate. They walk hand in hand, like the father and his children stepping into the light. And as we continue this journey, we'll step into another truth, one that burns quietly in every modern heart, the house we build from expectations and how easily its walls can catch fire, the house made of expectations. The house made of expectations. There's another kind of house we build, not from wood or stone, but from expectations. Walls made of should, windows made of must, and a roof that leaks every time reality rains. We spend years constructing it, carefully layering hope on top of ambition, painting its walls with plans and promises. It looks solid, impressive even. But deep inside, we know this house can collapse at any moment. You've probably lived in that house before. Maybe you live there now. You wake up and immediately remember who you think you're supposed to be. Strong, successful, positive, grateful, always doing better, always improving. But some days that mask feels too heavy to lift. You look around, and though everything appears fine, something inside feels fragile. It's not the world that's falling apart, it's the blueprint you made for it. The Buddha once said, "The root of suffering is attachment." And the strongest attachment of all is to how we believe life should be. When things don't go our way, we rarely question the way itself. We question ourselves. We say, "I failed. I wasn't enough. I should have known better." But the truth is, it wasn't failure. It was change. And change doesn't mean you did something wrong. It simply means the story you were telling about how life should unfold has reached its next chapter. The mind doesn't like that. It clings to certainty the way a frightened child clings to a blanket. We make plans because they make us feel safe. But plans are only maps, and maps can never capture the living forest of experience. When we demand that life match our map, we suffer. When we let life guide us, we discover paths no plan could ever find. The Buddha called this right view, seeing things as they are, not as we wish them to be. When we lose that clarity, we start building our houses of expectation higher and higher, hoping that if the structure is tall enough, we can escape the storms of impermanence. But storms are teachers, not enemies. They remind us that the sky belongs to no one. A young woman once told me that she felt she had wasted her 20s. She said she hadn't achieved what others had. No marriage, no house, no perfect job. Her voice trembled as she said, "I'm behind." "Behind what?" I asked. She couldn't answer. She only knew that everyone else seemed to be ahead. But life is not a race. It's a river, winding, unpredictable, different for each traveler. The current moves at its own pace, and comparing rivers makes no sense. When we measure ourselves against the timelines of others, we build a house from borrowed bricks, and those walls can never protect us because they were never truly ours. Expectation is a thief. It steals the present moment and replaces it with someday. The Buddha's teaching on non-self points directly to this. There is no fixed you who must achieve anything. There is only awareness, moving, growing, shifting like light across water. When we stop trying to be something permanent, we finally touch the peace that was always flowing beneath the surface. Maybe you've noticed this pattern. When life gives you something different from what you expected, the first feeling is resistance. You say, "This isn't fair." Then comes confusion. "Why me?" Then comes pain. "I can't accept this." But slowly, if you let the moment breathe, something softer appears. A quiet acceptance, like sunlight breaking through clouds. You realize the world didn't betray you. It just refused to stay inside your script. The house of expectation burns, not because the universe is cruel, but because we keep lighting candles of should in every room. I should be further along. I should be happier. I should have known better. Each should is a flame, and each moment of mindfulness is a drop of cool water. When you finally put out those little fires, you'll notice something miraculous. The house didn't disappear. It transformed. What once felt like walls becomes open space. What once felt like failure becomes freedom. One day, a monk swept the temple courtyard. Another monk walked by and asked, "Why sweep? The wind will scatter leaves again." The sweeping monk smiled and said, "Then I will sweep again." That's what it means to live without expectation, to act with peace, not for peace, to do what is needed now without demanding that it stay done forever. When we act this way, life becomes lighter. You still work, still love, still dream, but you stop treating those things as proof of worth. They become expressions of joy, not measures of success. It's the difference between playing music to impress someone and playing simply because the song wants to be sung. One burns you out, the other fills you with light. There's another story the Buddha told about a man shot by an arrow. When the doctor came to remove it, the man said, "Before you take it out, tell me who shot it. Was he tall or short? What was his family name? What kind of bow did he use?" The Buddha smiled and said, "By the time you have your answers, the poison will have already spread." That's what expectation does. It keeps us busy asking why things aren't as we planned, while the moment, the only place where peace can live, quietly slips away. You can't always choose what happens, but you can choose how tightly you hold it. Expectation clenches, awareness releases. So tonight, notice what your mind is clinging to. Notice the tiny fires of "I should have" and "it shouldn't be this way." And instead of fanning them, breathe. Let the air move freely through your chest. Let the story of how it was supposed to go begin to fade. Because maybe, just maybe, it was never supposed to go that way. Maybe it's going exactly as it must, to teach you how to live without walls. The Buddha called this equanimity, balance of heart, a mind that doesn't chase pleasure or flee pain, that stands steady in the middle of change. When you live from that center, you stop trying to build a perfect house. You simply sit under the open sky. And under that sky, everything belongs, even disappointment, even loss, even the moments that didn't go as planned. They too are parts of the great design, threads of impermanence weaving peace into your soul. So tonight, As you lie in stillness, feel the gentle weight of all your expectations. Then imagine setting them down one by one. You don't have to throw them away. Just let them rest. Let your mind be like an empty room, quiet, waiting, free of should. Listen to your breath. Each inhale builds, each exhale releases. This is how peace is built, not from control, but from letting go. The house you were trying to live in was never real. It was a story your mind told to feel safe. But safety doesn't come from walls. It comes from understanding. And understanding comes when you stop demanding that life be different. The Buddha once said, "The less you expect, the more you see." And tonight, perhaps, you are beginning to see. Tomorrow will come with its own surprises. Some joyful, some painful, all temporary. But for now, the night asks nothing of you. You can rest here, between what you wanted and what is. You can let the house of expectations fall silent around you. And as the smoke clears, you might notice another fire nearby. Not the fire of plans or pressure, but the quiet ember of comparison, flickering softly in the dark. And as the last ashes of your expectations settle, you may notice another kind of smoke rising, thinner, quieter, almost invisible. It's the smoke that drifts between hearts and minds, the subtle restlessness that whispers, "Why not me?" Let us follow that trail gently and see what it's trying to teach. The next story is called The Smoke of Comparison. The smoke of comparison. And as the last ashes of your expectations settle, you may notice another kind of smoke rising. Thinner, quieter, almost invisible. It drifts softly between thoughts, whispering a question we all know too well. Why not me? This is the smoke of comparison. Subtle, constant, and so familiar that we hardly notice it anymore. It floats through our days like background noise, coloring how we see ourselves, how we love, how we rest. It's the invisible measure by which we shrink our own joy. A woman once told me she couldn't enjoy her garden anymore. She said her neighbor's flowers always bloomed brighter. Their grass always looked greener. She had the same seeds, the same sunlight. But every time she looked over the fence, she felt something heavy in her chest. "I used to love tending my plants," she said. "But now it just feels like I'm losing a competition I never signed up for." That's what comparison does. It turns the heart's quiet joy into a scoreboard. It replaces gratitude with judgment and turns presence into performance. The Buddha taught that this kind of suffering begins with tanha, craving, the desire not only for things, but for identity. We don't just want to be happy, we want to be happier than someone else. We don't just want to succeed, we want our success to be seen. And so, we inhale the smoke of comparison every day without realizing how it dulls our breath. It begins innocently enough. You see a friend post a photo, a colleague get promoted, a stranger smile from a life that seems lighter than yours. Something inside whispers, "I should be there by now." And just like that, peace turns into pressure. But here's the truth. Comparison is not a mirror. It's smoke. It distorts whatever it touches. You think you're seeing others clearly, but you're only seeing your reflection in the haze. The Buddha called this illusion Maya, the fog that keeps us from seeing things as they are. When we compare, we don't see people, we see projections. We turn living souls into measuring sticks for our own worth. And in doing so, We forget the simplest truth of all. No two paths can ever be compared, because no two lives are walking toward the same horizon. There was once a monk who carried a heavy jar on his head. Another monk, younger and stronger, passed him easily on the trail. The older monk smiled and said, "You move fast because you carry little. I move slow because I carry what I still have to learn." Comparison is like that jar. It makes us forget that each person's weight is different. You cannot compare a mountain to the sea, nor a candle to the moon. Each shines in its own way, in its own time. But the mind, restless and afraid, wants to rank everything. It believes that if it can define its place, it will finally rest. Yet the more we rank, the less we see. And the less we see, the more we suffer. In the modern world, the smoke is thicker than ever. We scroll through other people's highlights and call them truths. We mistake visibility for value and likes for love. We build invisible hierarchies of who's winning at happiness. But joy cannot be ranked, peace cannot be compared, and the light that shines in one heart doesn't dim the light in another. Still, comparison persists because it's rooted in forgetfulness, forgetting who we really are. We think we are the image others see, the roles we play, the numbers we count. But the Buddha said, there is no fixed self to compare. You are not the body, not the job, not the story. You are the awareness watching it all unfold, and awareness has no competition. When you rest in awareness, you see another person's joy and feel only gladness. That feeling is called mudita, sympathetic joy, the happiness that arises from another's happiness. It is the pure antidote to comparison. Because when you celebrate another's light, your own flame grows brighter. I once met a teacher who said, jealousy is admiration without awareness. It means that when you envy someone, you're actually recognizing a quality that already lives inside you, but you haven't learned to trust it yet. So instead of reaching outward, look inward. Ask, what am I seeing in them that I've forgotten in myself? That question alone can turn envy into insight. Every person who stirs jealousy in you is showing you something you're meant to awaken. Their light is a reminder of your own. And when you see it that way, the smoke begins to clear. The Buddha told a story about two travelers lost in a desert. One found water and began to drink, but the other became angry and said, "Why did you find it first? I've been walking longer." While he argued, the water dried in the heat. The Buddha said, "When you focus on fairness, you miss the gift." So many of our moments of joy evaporate that way. We spoil them by asking, is it fair? But fairness is a human idea. The universe only knows balance. When you stop keeping score, you discover that peace has always been evenly distributed. Try this. Tonight, think of someone you once envied. Picture them in your mind and silently wish them well. May you be happy. May you be safe. May you continue to grow. Feel the way your heart softens as you say it. That softening is mudita in motion. It's the moment smoke turns back into air. When we practice this, the mind becomes light again. It no longer feels threatened by other people's brightness. Instead, it sees that we all share the same sun, and the sun does not compare who it shines upon. Still, the mind will forget. Tomorrow, or the next day, you'll see someone else's success and feel that small ache of insufficiency return. That's okay. Comparison isn't something to kill. It's something to understand. When it arises, don't judge it. Simply notice it, like smoke drifting across a clear sky. Let it pass through you. And remember, the sky never competes with the clouds. The Buddha once said, "Contentment is the greatest wealth." When you feel grateful, you are rich. When you stop comparing, you are free. It doesn't mean you stop growing or dreaming. It means you grow without poison. You dream without fear. So as you breathe tonight, let gratitude fill the spaces where comparison used to live. Breathe in appreciation, breathe out envy. Inhale enoughness, exhale not enough. Feel the air clear again, the way it always does after smoke drifts away. Because peace was never gone. It was only hidden behind the haze of wanting. Now the air feels open again, the heart quieter, the night still, and yet another illusion waits nearby, one we all carry close to our chests. It's the belief that if we could just control everything, we would finally be safe. Let's look at that illusion next and see what happens when the need for control begins to burn away. The illusion of control. There's a quiet illusion that keeps almost every human heart restless. The belief that if we could just manage everything perfectly, we would finally be safe. We try to control the future with plans, the past with regret, and the present with worry. And when none of it works, we tighten our grip even more. It's strange, isn't it? The harder we try to hold life still, the faster it slips through our fingers. A man once told me he lived by a simple rule. If I don't take control, everything will fall apart. He organized every minute of his day, alarms, reminders, color-coded calendars. He scheduled even his meditation time. He thought he was mastering life, but really, life was mastering him. One evening, when a storm knocked out the power in his home, his perfectly arranged schedule vanished. No Wi-Fi, no light, no control. For the first time in years, he sat in the dark, doing nothing. And in that darkness, he felt something unfamiliar. Peace. Control had been his armor, but it was also his cage. When it broke, light came in. The Buddha once said, "Just as a storm cannot be stopped by shouting at the clouds, suffering cannot be ended by trying to control it." Everything in existence arises from causes and conditions, what he called pratyasamutpada, or dependent origination. It means that nothing exists by itself, and nothing happens because of one person alone. When you see this truth clearly, control begins to look like what it really is, an attempt to own what was never ours. We don't control the rain, yet we carry umbrellas. We don't control the wind, yet we learn to sail. True wisdom is not the power to control life, it's the grace to cooperate with it. Still, the mind resists. It whispers, "If I let go, everything will collapse." But the opposite is true. When you loosen your grip, the world finds its balance again. A mother once described to me how her teenage son had begun to pull away. She said, "The more I tried to help, the more distant he became." Tears welled in her eyes. "I just want to protect him," she said. I asked, "Protect him from what?" She paused, then whispered, "From the life I can't control." That moment of realization was everything. She didn't need to change her son. She needed to trust the current carrying him. That's what love becomes when it's free from fear. Not a leash, but a light. The Buddha compared control to grasping a rope made of fire. At first, we think holding tighter will save us. But the more we grip, the more we burn. And when we finally let go, the pain stops. Not because the world changed, but because we stopped fighting what was. Every day, life gives us chances to practice this letting go. A delayed flight, a conversation that doesn't go as planned, a loved one making a choice we wouldn't have made. Each is an invitation to remember. We are not directors of the play, only witnesses of its beauty. The mind wants certainty, the heart wants peace, and only when the mind surrenders can the heart finally breathe. The illusion of control runs deep. It's woven into our culture. Take charge, be the master of your fate, make it happen. These phrases sound empowering, but they hide exhaustion beneath their shine. They make us believe peace must be earned through dominance. But the Buddha's path offers another way, right effort. It doesn't mean pushing harder. It means aligning with what's already true. It's the effort of awareness, not force. It's working with the river, not against it. You can steer your boat, but you can't command the current, and maybe that's enough. When we cling to control, we shrink the world into something measurable. But reality is vast. Infinite causes, infinite effects. Trying to manage it all is like trying to command the ocean with a cup. The waves will come and go, whether or not you name them. The Buddha once said, "Let go of what you cannot control, and peace will follow like a shadow that never leaves." He didn't mean indifference, he meant wisdom. To let go is not to abandon responsibility. It is to abandon the illusion of ownership. You still act, still care, still love, but without believing the outcome is yours alone. That is true freedom. A friend once shared how he used to worry endlessly about the future. What if I lose my job? What if I get sick? What if I never find love? He said the constant what if was eating his peace alive. Then one day while hiking he came upon a stream. He noticed how each leaf floated along effortlessly, never fighting the flow, never fearing the rocks ahead. He said, "For the first time I wanted to be like that leaf." From then on, he stopped trying to predict every outcome. He didn't give up on life, he just gave up on control. And life, relieved, began to carry him again. That's what happens when we trust the flow. It doesn't mean we stop steering. It means we steer softly. Try this now. Take a slow, deep breath. Feel it rise and fall all on its own. You don't control the air. It moves through you. You don't command your heartbeat. It beats without your permission. Even in stillness, life is happening for you, not by you. So much of peace is remembering what was never yours to manage. The rain falls, the sun rises, the seasons turn. Everything dances in rhythm, and all you have to do is notice the music. If you find yourself clinging to control tonight, remember the leaf on the stream. Remember the mother learning to trust the current. Remember the man who found peace in darkness when the power went out. Let those stories remind you that release is not weakness, it's wisdom, and that every breath is proof that life already knows what it's doing. You were never meant to manage the entire world. You were meant to awaken inside it. So let go gently, not with resignation but with faith. Faith that the river carries you where you need to go. Faith that peace arrives when you stop trying to earn it. Faith that freedom was never about control. It was about seeing clearly. The Buddha once said, "When you let go of control, you gain the whole sky." So tonight, as you rest, look up, even with your eyes closed. Feel the sky above you, limitless, forgiving, wide. That's the space of awareness, open, steady, unbound. You belong there, and as you breathe into that freedom, you may begin to sense another lesson waiting quietly ahead. a truth about comfort, and how what feels safe can sometimes hold us captive. And as you rest in that open sky of surrender, you may feel a quiet ease settle into your heart, a peace so soft that it almost feels unfamiliar. But peace too can become a place we hide. Sometimes what feels safe begins to hold us still. Let's look gently at that truth and see how comfort, when clung to, can quietly turn into a cage. When comfort becomes a cage. Comfort is a beautiful thing. A warm bed, a steady routine, the quiet predictability of a life that doesn't surprise us too much. We spend years chasing it, and when we finally find it, we guard it with all our strength. But there comes a moment, usually in silence, when comfort begins to feel too small. You sense it not as peace but as stillness that no longer nourishes. It's like breathing air that's grown too soft, safe, but without life. This is the paradox of comfort. It gives us rest, then quietly asks for our freedom in return. A man once told me he had everything he ever wanted: a stable job, a loving family, a home by the sea. But every night before sleep, he felt a quiet sadness he couldn't name. He said, "My life feels full, but my heart feels small." He had built a world without edges, and without edges, there was nothing left to explore. He wasn't ungrateful. He was imprisoned by satisfaction. He had mistaken comfort for peace. The Buddha called this attachment, the subtle clinging that keeps us tied to what feels safe, even when it no longer helps us grow. He taught that the path to freedom lies between two extremes, the pursuit of pleasure and the denial of it. This is the middle way, not rejecting comfort, but refusing to let it rule you. There's a story about a monk who found a beautiful cave beside a river. It was cool in summer, warm in winter, and filled with soft light at dawn. He stayed there, meditating in peace day after day. One morning, another monk passed by and asked, "Brother, why don't you continue your pilgrimage?" The monk smiled and said, "I have found everything I need here." The visitor nodded and replied gently, "Then beware. What you call contentment may soon become attachment." At first, the monk dismissed the warning, but months later, when a storm flooded the river, his beloved cave filled with water. In panic, he tried to stop the flood, shouting at the sky, pleading with the rain. When the cave finally collapsed, he wept, not for the loss of shelter, but for the realization that he had been clinging all along. Comfort, when held too tightly, becomes a golden cage. It's built of soft habits, familiar paths, and quiet fears. We tell ourselves we're staying because it's peaceful, but often we stay because we're afraid to start over. The world tells us that comfort is the reward for effort, the prize at the end of struggle. But comfort is not the destination, it's the resting point between journeys. The Buddha never taught that peace comes from stillness alone. He taught that true peace is motion without fear, the ability to move with life, not away from it. Imagine a bird that refuses to leave its nest because the sky looks uncertain. It may be safe for a while, but eventually the air grows stale. The feathers meant for flight become heavy from disuse. That's what happens to the heart when it chooses comfort over growth. A woman once shared that she hadn't changed jobs in 15 years. She said, "It's fine here. I know everyone. I know what to expect." But as she spoke, Her voice softened. "I used to dream of painting," she said, "but now I only paint in my mind." Comfort had become her lullaby, and like all lullabies, it made her forget she was still alive. The Buddha said, "Nothing stays the same, not even contentment." When we forget this, we cling to what feels stable and call it peace. But real peace breathes. It expands, it changes shape, it asks us to keep stepping forward, even when the ground beneath us feels uncertain. That's why the middle way is so difficult. We mistake the stillness of stagnation for serenity. One is life resting, the other is life asleep. In our modern lives, the cage of comfort is often invisible. It's not made of luxury or laziness, it's made of repetition. The same route to work, the same conversations, the same stories we tell ourselves about who we are. We call it stability, but sometimes it's simply fear wearing a friendly face. Comfort whispers, "Stay here, it's safe." But safety has never been the point of awakening. Safety soothes the mind. Challenge awakens the soul. The Buddha didn't find enlightenment in a palace. He found it after he left one. He walked away from silk, from certainty, from comfort, not because they were evil, but because they kept him from seeing clearly. He discovered that every form of clinging, no matter how pleasant, creates a wall between us and truth. And walls, no matter how beautiful, always block the view. There's a small meditation you can try now. Close your eyes and bring to mind something that feels too comfortable. A routine, a belief, a relationship, a habit. Ask yourself, does this comfort expand me or confine me? If it expands you, keep it with gratitude. If it confines you, thank it. Then let it go. You don't have to destroy it. You only have to stop depending on it. Freedom isn't always leaving. Sometimes it's simply loosening your grip. One day, the Buddha held up a lotus flower in silence. His disciples waited for him to speak, but he said nothing. Only one monk smiled. The Buddha later said that smile was enlightenment. Why? Because the monk saw what words could not explain. That peace is not found in the flower, nor in its beauty or fragrance, but in seeing it without wanting to possess it. That's the essence of freedom, to touch life gently without needing to own it. When you can rest in the heart of change, when you can find comfort in motion, you have learned what even kings and scholars long to understand. So tonight, ask yourself, what parts of your life have become too soft, too small? What parts of you are ready to stretch again? You don't have to leap into chaos. Just take one mindful step outside your routine. Do something unfamiliar. Watch the sunrise instead of scrolling through your phone. Take a different path on your walk. Listen to silence instead of noise. Each small act of curiosity breaks one bar of the cage. The Buddha said, the root of liberation is wonder, and wonder can't survive inside walls. As you breathe now, imagine the walls of comfort dissolving around you, not breaking, just fading like mist in the morning sun. Beyond them lies the open air, a world alive, unpredictable, kind. You don't need to abandon comfort forever. You only need to stop confusing it with freedom. Rest when you must, then rise when it's time, because comfort, when held wisely, becomes a bridge, a place to gather strength before flying again. The night is calm now, and the wind outside feels gentle, reminding you that life moves whether we hold on or not. And as you listen to that wind, you might notice another quiet fire burning. Not in the heart this time, but in the ticking of the clock. It's the fire of time itself, reminding us that even comfort, even rest will pass. The walls of comfort fade, and what remains is stillness, wide, open, and alive. But even stillness moves, quietly, like breath. Listen closely, and you can hear another rhythm underneath, the steady pulse of time, reminding us that everything, even peace, is passing. Let's follow that rhythm now and see what the fire of time is trying to teach us. The burning of time. Time is a quiet fire. It doesn't roar or scream. It burns gently, steady, invisible, unstoppable. It touches everything, leaving no trace of what once was. And yet, in its warmth, life unfolds. We spend our days trying to master time, to manage it, save it, outrun it. We call it productivity, but in truth, it's often fear wearing a clever disguise. The fear of not having enough, of being left behind, of fading before we've truly lived. The Buddha once said, "The trouble is, you think you have time." He wasn't warning us to hurry. He was inviting us to wake up, to see that each breath is already the beginning and the end. A man once told me that he felt haunted by the ticking of clocks. He said he could hear them, even when none were around. That soft, steady pulse reminding him that every second was disappearing. He tried to fill his days with busyness so he wouldn't have to feel it. But no matter how much he did, the ticking followed him. In the silence before sleep, in the pauses between thoughts. One evening, exhausted, he stopped resisting and simply listened. He said, "When I finally stopped fighting time, I realized it wasn't chasing me. It was carrying me." That was his awakening. Not a grand revelation, but a quiet surrender. Time had never been his enemy. It was his teacher all along. The Buddha taught that everything that arises will also pass away. This is the truth of anicca, impermanence. It's not meant to make us sad. It's meant to free us from clinging. Because when you understand that nothing lasts, you begin to love more gently, forgive more quickly, and live more fully. Time doesn't steal, it transforms. It takes what we hold and turns it into memory, then into wisdom, and eventually into silence. And that silence, that space left behind, is not emptiness. It's peace. There was once a potter who spent his whole life perfecting his craft. Every vase he made was flawless, but he refused to sell any of them. He said, "They're too precious. If I let them go, I'll lose myself." When he grew old, his workshop was full of beautiful, dust-covered creations. One day, a storm came and the roof collapsed. His life's work shattered before his eyes. He wept, not for the loss of clay, but for the years spent guarding what he could never keep. Time is like that storm. It reminds us that everything we create, every plan, every dream, every identity, is temporary art upon the surface of eternity. The beauty was never in the keeping. It was in the making, in the breathing, in the being. Our minds love to measure time in years, months, and milestones. But time doesn't live on calendars. It lives in moments, in laughter that fades into silence, in sunlight across a loved one's face, in the warmth of a hand you may never hold again. Each moment burns briefly but completely, and that is enough. The Buddha called this awareness sati, mindfulness. It's the art of knowing the fire while it burns, of feeling each second not as something slipping away, but as something arriving, fresh, alive, full of life. When you live like that, time stops being an enemy. It becomes an ally, a rhythm, a companion, a song. The ticking no longer counts your losses. It keeps time with your breath. I once met a woman who said she was afraid of growing old. She said, "I used to feel young inside, but now I see age in every mirror." I asked her what she missed most about her youth. She thought for a while and said, "I miss believing I had endless time." Then she paused and smiled. But maybe that belief was the real illusion, because when I stop longing for more time, I finally have all the time I need. That's the secret. It's not about adding years, but about being fully present for the ones you already have. The moment you stop trying to stretch time, you discover that it's infinite, inside awareness itself. In meditation, monks often imagine a candle slowly burning. Each flicker of flame represents a moment of life, bright, brief, beautiful. When the wax melts, the flame doesn't die, it simply changes form. The light becomes warmth, the warmth becomes air, and the air becomes life again. That's the cycle of everything. Not loss, but transformation. And when we see it that way, we stop mourning the passing of time and start marveling at its artistry. Every ending is simply time painting in a different color. The problem isn't that time moves too quickly, it's that we try to hold still inside a moving world. We forget that we are made of movement, blood flowing, breath shifting, thoughts arising and fading. You can't stop time any more than you can stop your heartbeat. You can only live in rhythm with it. When you eat, eat slowly. When you speak, speak softly. When you love, love with your whole being. Let every act be a full note in the music of your life. Then, when silence finally comes, it will sound like completion, not loss. So tonight, as you listen, notice how time feels different when you stop chasing it. The seconds no longer rush, they flow. The past no longer drags, it rests. The future no longer looms, it unfolds. In this awareness, time burns not to destroy, but to illuminate what truly matters. Each breath you take is both beginning and ending, birth and death, flame and ash, and the peace you seek has always been hiding in that flicker, in the space between one breath and the next. The Buddha once said, "Better than 100 years lived in distraction is one day lived with awareness." It doesn't matter how much time you have, only how awake you are within it. Because the more awake you are, the slower everything feels. Not because time has changed, but because you finally have. Now, as the night deepens and the fire of time burns softly around you, feel its warmth, not its threat. Let it remind you that you are alive, that this very moment is the miracle you've been chasing. And as you rest in that awareness, you may begin to see something new. Not just one path out of the burning house, but many, each one leading toward freedom in its own way. The fire of time still glows, but its heat has softened now. A quiet warmth that lights the path ahead. In that glow, many roads begin to appear, each leading toward the same freedom, each inviting us to walk a little closer to peace. Let's take the first step together and see where these paths will lead. The roads out of the fire. The fire of time still glows, but its heat has softened now. A quiet warmth that lights the path ahead. In that glow, many roads begin to appear, each leading toward the same freedom, each inviting us to walk a little closer to peace. In the Buddha's teaching, these are the roads out of the fire, not paths to escape life, but ways to move through it without being burned. There is an old story. After speaking of the burning house, the Buddha described 3 carts waiting outside, one drawn by a goat, one by a deer, and one by an ox. Each cart, he said, would carry the children away from danger, but each in its own way, for not everyone is ready to travel the same path. It was never about wagons or animals. It was about compassion. The Buddha saw that awakening could not be forced into one form. Each being must find their own doorway to peace. For some it is wisdom, for others love, for others still the quiet strength of stillness. Different paths, one destination, liberation. Today, the carts look different. Some people find their path in meditation, others in service, others in the simple act of living mindfully. A woman once told me she discovered her calm while gardening. She said, "I used to think I needed to travel to India to find peace, but one morning, as I knelt to plant seeds, the sound of the soil, the feel of the breeze, suddenly everything stopped. And in that stillness, I realized peace was already here." She smiled and said, "The garden was my temple all along." And it was, because the true temple is awareness itself. Wherever you are fully alive, you are already walking out of the fire. The Buddha described one great path, the Noble Eightfold Path. 8 ways to walk in harmony with truth, right view, right intention, right speech, right action, right livelihood, right effort, right mindfulness, right concentration. At first they sound like rules, but they are really 8 gentle ways of remembering, to see clearly, to act kindly, to speak honestly, to live without harm, to stay awake in each breath. They are not commandments, they are compass points, and the compass always points home. Imagine the Eightfold Path as a circle, not a staircase. You don't climb it, you walk it, again and again. Each step strengthens the others. Mindfulness supports understanding. Right effort nurtures right speech. Everything feeds everything else. And slowly, the fire that once consumed you becomes light guiding your way. When you live this way, the world doesn't stop burning, but you stop adding fuel. You begin to see fire not as your enemy, but as a teacher reminding you of impermanence, of passion, of the delicate balance of being alive. There was once a young monk who asked his teacher, "How will I know when I'm free?" The teacher replied, "When you can walk through the world and no longer wish it to be different. Freedom is not leaving the world behind. It's seeing the world as it is and loving it anyway." The Buddha called this equanimity, a mind steady like a mountain, a heart open like the sky. When you cultivate that steadiness, you can stand in the middle of chaos and still be at peace. That is what it means to walk the road out of the fire. Think of your own life as a long journey. Some roads are smooth, others break beneath your feet. Some days the light is clear, others you walk in rain. You take wrong turns, you circle back, you fall, you rise. But every step, even the painful ones, is still a step forward. The Buddha never promised a life without suffering. He promised understanding, a way to meet suffering without becoming it. And that understanding turns the road itself into sanctuary. A man once asked the Buddha, "If there are many paths, which one is best?" The Buddha smiled and said, the one you will actually walk. Because peace isn't found at the end of a journey. It's found in each mindful step. Whether your practice is silence or service, whether it happens on a cushion or in traffic, what matters is presence. Each moment you choose awareness over reaction is another step out of the burning house. Maybe your path begins with kindness, the decision to forgive someone, even if they never say sorry. Maybe it begins with mindfulness, pausing before you speak, or noticing the breath that has always been there. Maybe it begins with wisdom, recognizing that you don't need every answer to rest in peace. Each of these is a doorway, and behind each doorway is the same space, open, endless, luminous. Still, the road can feel long. There will be days when your mind says, "This isn't working. I'm still angry. I'm still lost." That's okay. Even the Buddha once sat beneath the tree of fear. He didn't defeat his demons. He simply watched them until they lost interest. He didn't conquer fire. He understood it. Awakening is not the end of struggle. It's the end of resistance. It's the moment you realize you were never truly trapped, only distracted. Try this. Take a deep breath in. Feel your feet against the floor, your body resting on the earth. With every inhale, you walk forward. With every exhale, you release what no longer serves you. This is the path. A rhythm of effort and surrender, movement and stillness, burning and cooling. Every breath you take is a step toward freedom. Some roads are paved with silence, others with laughter. Some are shared, some are solitary, but all are sacred when walked with love. Because when one person awakens, the whole world becomes a little brighter. The Buddha said, "As a candle lights 1,000 others without losing its flame, so does peace spread by being shared." When you walk with peace, you become that candle. You light others simply by being. So tonight, as the paths stretch before you, know that you are already walking them. You've been walking since the first moment you longed to understand yourself. Every sorrow, every joy, every stillness has carried you here, to this breath, to this knowing, to this gentle beginning again. And now, as the night deepens, another flame flickers in the distance. Not the fire that destroys, but the one that seduces. The fire that promises fulfillment, yet often leaves ashes in its wake. It's the fire that lives in every heart, whispering softly, "Just one more." Let's walk toward that glow together and see if desire itself can become a teacher. The fire of desire. There is a flame that lives inside every human heart. It flickers when we want, it brightens when we crave, and it burns fiercely when we say, "If only I had this, then I'd finally be happy." This is the fire of desire. It is both the beginning of creation and the seed of suffering. Without it, nothing moves. With too much of it, nothing rests. The Buddha never called desire evil. He called it fire, and fire can warm or destroy. It all depends on how we hold it. There was once a man who chased one dream after another. When he was young, he wanted love. When he found love, he wanted wealth. When he gained wealth, he wanted peace. And when he finally found peace, he wanted it to last forever. Each time he reached what he wanted, it slipped away like smoke, and so he ran faster, thinking happiness was hiding just one step ahead. One day, tired and defeated, he asked a monk, "Why do I never feel satisfied, even when I have everything I wanted?" The monk said, because you keep feeding the fire and wondering why there's smoke. Desire itself is not the problem. It's the endless feeding, the refusal to stop adding fuel, that keeps the heart restless and the mind blind. The Buddha called this thirst tanha, a deep, instinctive longing that clings to pleasure, fears pain, and hungers for existence itself. There are three kinds of desire, he said. The desire for sense pleasures, kama tanha, the taste, touch, sight, sound, and feelings we chase to feel alive. The desire for becoming, bhava tanha, the craving to become something, to achieve, to prove, to be remembered. And the desire for non-becoming, vibhava tanha, the craving to escape, to disappear, to not feel at all. Each flame burns differently, but all produce the same smoke. Discontent. Desire isn't wrong. It's simply energy moving through us. The same force that made stars ignite. Trees reach for the sun, and children reach for their mother's hands. Without it, nothing would grow. But when we cling to it, the same warmth that gives life begins to consume it. The Buddha taught, to see desire clearly is not to kill it, but to understand what it's asking for. Every craving hides a prayer. Every longing says, "Please remind me I am whole." A woman once told me she used to envy those who seemed effortlessly happy. I wanted their calm, she said, their confidence, their lightness. But when she began to meditate, she noticed something. Her envy wasn't really about them. It was her heart's way of saying, "I wish I could rest in myself the way they do." When she saw that clearly, envy turned into compassion. Her desire didn't disappear. It transformed into understanding. That is the secret of this fire. When desire burns blindly, it destroys. When it burns with awareness, it illuminates. A student once asked the Buddha, "Should I destroy all desire to be free?" The Buddha smiled gently and said, "If you desire freedom, are you not still caught in desire?" The monk frowned. "Then what should I do?" The Buddha said, "Don't fight the fire. Understand it. When you understand desire, you begin to see it not as an enemy, but as a teacher. It shows you what you value, where you feel empty, and how you confuse wanting with being." The Buddha spoke of the middle way, a path between indulgence and denial. Too much desire burns, too little life withers. The art is in the balance, to care deeply without clinging, to enjoy without needing, to love without owning. He told the story of a musician tuning his string. "If the string is too loose," he said, "the instrument will not play. If it's too tight, it will snap." This is how to hold desire. Not too tight, not too loose. When you touch life gently, it begins to sing again. In today's world, desire is louder than ever. It hides in screens, in ads that promise happiness in a purchase, in scrolls that turn longing into habit. We measure joy by numbers and call exhaustion success. We don't just consume things, we let things consume us. The Buddha would smile gently at this modern fire and say what he always said, "Be aware." Because awareness is water. Even the hottest fire cools in its presence. Try this tonight. Think of something you've been longing for. Something you've told yourself you need. Maybe it's love, recognition, freedom, or change. Close your eyes and imagine holding it. Feel what your body does. The tightening in your chest, the tension in your breath, the restlessness in your thoughts. Now whisper softly, what is this desire really asking for? Listen, beneath every craving there's a tenderness, a part of you that simply wants to be safe, to be seen, to belong. When you meet that need with awareness instead of chasing it through the world, the fire softens. It becomes gentle, useful, even kind. The Buddha said, from craving comes sorrow, from understanding comes release. To see desire clearly is to unmask it, to see that it is not you. You are the awareness watching it burn, and awareness never burns. When you rest as awareness, you can still want, still dream, still love. But the wanting no longer owns you. You hold it lightly, the way sunlight holds a leaf. Then desire becomes devotion, not the hunger to have, but the willingness to experience. You begin to love the longing itself, for it reminds you that you are alive. A monk once described enlightenment like this: it's not the end of desire, it's the end of being ruled by it. When the mind stops chasing, desire transforms into compassion, the wish for others to be happy, not just yourself. It becomes metta, loving kindness, a fire that warms instead of wounds. Even the Buddha desired something, not for himself, but for all beings to awaken. That is pure desire, a longing free from self, a flame that lights without burning. Sometimes people misunderstand letting go. They think it means indifference or the cold absence of caring. But real letting go is full of love. It says, I will love you without holding you. It says, I will dream without needing the dream to come true. It says, I will live without demanding permanence from life. When you can say that from your heart, the fire becomes light, a calm, steady glow that illuminates everything without grasping anything. So tonight, as you lie in stillness, notice your own inner flame. Don't fear it. Don't try to blow it out. Simply watch it. See what it burns for. Is it lighting the room of your heart or setting it ablaze? Maybe it's showing you something beautiful, a dream, a calling, a truth you've ignored. Maybe it's asking not for possession, but for presence. Let it burn, but let it burn wisely. The Buddha once said, desire is a flame. Wisdom is the air that lets it dance without harm. So breathe deeply now. Let the air of awareness cool the fire within you. Watch how the flames steady, how the smoke clears, how the heart grows luminous again. And as that light softens, you might feel something new rising. A gentle current flowing through the ashes. Clear, cool, forgiving. It is the water of release, the quiet stream of letting go. As the fire fades into soft light, a gentle stream begins to flow beneath the ashes. Clear, cool, forgiving. It carries away the remnants of longing, inviting you to rest, to release, to remember peace. Let's walk beside that stream now and listen to what the water has to say. The water of letting go. As the fire fades into soft light, a gentle stream begins to flow beneath the ashes. Clear, cool, forgiving. It carries away the remnants of longing, inviting you to rest, to release, to remember peace. Let's walk beside that stream now and listen to what the water has to say. The water of letting go. There is something sacred about water. It doesn't resist. It doesn't cling. It moves around every obstacle, finding its way through stone, turning mountains into valleys, always flowing, never fighting. The Buddha often compared the awakened mind to water, clear, responsive, and free. He said, just as water takes the shape of any vessel, so too does a wise mind flow with what is. To let go, then, is to return to your natural state, fluid, soft, alive. A man once told me he couldn't forgive his brother. He said, "It's been years, but every time I think of him, the anger comes back." I asked, what would it feel like if you put that anger down, even for one breath? He thought for a moment, then said, "It would feel like breathing after holding my breath too long." That is the truth of letting go. It doesn't mean you approve of what happened. It means you choose freedom over the weight of remembering. You stop carrying what life has already taken away. The Buddha said, holding on to anger is like grasping a hot coal with the intent of throwing it at someone else. You are the one who gets burned. We all hold coals, old hurts, lost chances, unfinished stories. We hold them because we think they define us, but they only weigh us down. When you finally open your hand, the burn begins to heal on its own. Letting go is not an action, it's an undoing. It's not something you do, it's something you stop doing. You stop gripping, you stop repeating the story, you stop mistaking the weight for your identity. A woman once described how she lost her home in a flood. Everything she owned, gone in one night. At first, she was devastated, but as weeks passed, she said something remarkable. I realized that when I lost everything, I also lost the fear of losing. She said it felt as if life had rinsed her clean. That's what the water of letting go does. It washes away not only what you held, but the illusion that holding ever made you safe. When you look closely, life is always asking you to let go of moments, of people, of versions of yourself. Every breath you take is a lesson in release. You inhale what is new, you exhale what is gone, and if you listen carefully, you'll hear peace whisper between the two. The Buddha called this the art of non-clinging. He didn't teach detachment as coldness, but as freedom. He said, letting go is not losing, it is seeing clearly. When you see clearly, you realize nothing can truly be lost, because nothing was ever truly owned. A monk once asked his teacher, "How do I know if I've let go?" The teacher smiled and said, "When you can remember and no longer ache." Letting go is not forgetting, it's remembering without pain. It's seeing the story but no longer being inside it. It's the difference between standing in the rain and watching it fall. Modern life makes letting go difficult. We live in a culture that tells us to hold on to success, onto love, onto youth, onto proof that we matter. But the tighter we hold, the more life slips through our fingers. Letting go is not giving up, it's giving in to the truth that life flows. Everything changes, everything moves, everything belongs to the river. Try this. Close your eyes. Picture yourself standing beside a river. In your hands, imagine you're holding a stone, the weight of something you've been clinging to, a memory, a guilt, a fear, a person. Feel its heaviness. Then, when you're ready, gently open your hands. Watch the stone drop into the water. See the ripples widen, the surface return to calm. Notice the space left in your palms. That lightness, that emptiness, that is what peace feels like. The Buddha once said, "Whatever has the nature to arise will also cease." Letting go is simply living in harmony with that truth. It is trusting impermanence as your greatest teacher. When you stop resisting endings, you start to see beginnings everywhere. A tree lets go of its leaves every year, not in sorrow but in rhythm. It trusts that spring will return, and so must we, to release what no longer serves and trust what comes next. A man once lost his job after 20 years. He told me, "I thought my life was over." But a few months later, he began volunteering at a small school near his home. He said, "At first, I just wanted to stay busy, but then I realized I had never been happier." He smiled. Maybe losing my job wasn't the end. Maybe it was life setting me free. That's the hidden mercy in loss. When something leaves, it often makes space for something truer to arrive. Letting go doesn't empty you, it opens you. Sometimes, what we must release is not a person or thing, but an idea, the story of how life should be. The Buddha called these views the lenses that distort reality. He said that freedom begins when we see through them. When you stop demanding that life obey your script, you discover that life itself is far more generous than your plans. Letting go, then, is not the end of control. It's the beginning of trust. You start to trust that the river knows where it's going. You no longer fight its current, you float. The Buddha often compared awakening to crossing a river. You use a raft, your practice, your understanding, your discipline. But once you reach the other shore, you don't carry the raft on your back. You bow to it and leave it behind. That too is letting go. Even wisdom, when clung to, becomes weight. Even truth, when possessed, becomes prison. Freedom means traveling light, with gratitude, not grasping. So tonight, as you rest in the gentle rhythm of breath, imagine the river moving through you. Let it carry away what no longer serves. Old stories, harsh judgments, expectations too heavy to hold. Feel how your body softens when you stop resisting the flow. You are not losing anything. You are returning to your natural state of openness. This is what the Buddha called nibbana, the cooling of the fires, the quenching of thirst. It is not a place, but a peace so deep it no longer needs to hold. Letting go is not the end of love. It is the highest form of it, because to love something truly is to wish it freedom. Freedom to change, to leave, to become what it must. And in that same freedom, you find your own. Now, the water around you grows still. The current slows to silence, and beneath the reflection of moonlight, you begin to sense something vast. A still lake within you, so calm it holds the sky. Let's rest there for a while and see what silence has been waiting to show us. The still lake within. The river grows quiet now. Its motion slows until it becomes a mirror, clear, still, endless. And when you look into that silence, you realize you're not standing beside the water anymore. You are the water. You are the stillness itself. The still lake within. There is a place inside you that has never been touched by fear, never been stirred by desire. never been dimmed by sorrow. It lies beneath every thought, beneath every memory, beneath every breath. It is the still lake within, the heart of awareness itself. The Buddha said, "In the mind that is calm, the world appears calm." When the winds of craving and aversion settle, the lake of consciousness becomes clear, and in that clarity, truth reflects itself perfectly. A traveler once climbed a mountain searching for peace. He meditated in caves, prayed to gods, studied under teachers, but his mind remained restless, his thoughts always rippling like wind across a pond. One day, exhausted, he sat beside a quiet lake at sunrise. He watched the mist lift and the reflection of the sky appear, and in that moment he understood. The peace he had been chasing had been reflecting him all along. He whispered, "I am the lake," and the wind stopped blowing. That is the realization the Buddha called bhavana, cultivation of calm insight. Peace doesn't appear when life becomes perfect. Peace appears when you stop disturbing the water. In meditation, you may have noticed this. At first, the surface is rough, thoughts rising and falling like waves. You try to stop them, but the more you fight, the higher they rise. Then something changes. You stop trying, you breathe, you watch, and slowly the surface smooths. Not because you controlled it, but because you allowed it to rest. The mind's true nature is not chaos. It is stillness. Stillness disguised as movement. Light disguised as shadow. The Buddha once compared awareness to space. He said, "Space cannot be stained. Clouds can cover it. Storms can pass through it. But space itself remains untouched." Your mind is the same. Emotions, memories, worries. They are clouds moving through you. You are the sky, not the storm. You are the lake, not the ripples. When you rest in that knowing, you begin to see how gently the world moves. Nothing is truly against you. Everything simply is. And in that simple being, there is peace deeper than words. A woman once told me she had spent years trying to fix herself. Therapies, books, affirmations, always another way to improve. But one morning, while sitting by a window, she noticed a beam of light falling across the floor. It didn't try to be brighter or more perfect. It just shone, and she realized maybe she didn't need fixing. Maybe she only needed to stop resisting her own light. That's what the still lake teaches. You don't need to become peaceful. You only need to stop stirring the water. Stillness is not the absence of movement. It's the presence of awareness within movement. It's the moment you wash the dishes and actually feel the water. The moment you walk and hear the rhythm of your steps. The moment you speak and listen to your own words as if for the first time. That is meditation in motion. The lake reflecting life without distortion. When you live like this, every act becomes sacred. Every breath becomes prayer. The Buddha once said, "If you pour a handful of salt into a cup of water, the water becomes undrinkable. But if you pour it into a lake, the water remains pure." When your heart is small, even tiny pains overwhelm you. But when your heart expands, it can hold everything. Joy and sorrow, loss and love, without losing its clarity. That is the lake within you, vast enough to hold the world. A monk once asked, "What is enlightenment?" The Buddha simply smiled and said, "When I eat, I eat. When I walk, I walk. When I sleep, I sleep." In the still lake of presence, there is no separation between action and awareness. You are simply here. No effort, no striving, only being. This is not passivity, it's intimacy. When you live in full awareness, you meet life completely, not as a dreamer, but as the dream itself waking up. Sometimes people ask, how can I stay peaceful when the world is full of noise? The answer is the lake. Noise disturbs the surface, not the depth. When you stop identifying with the surface, the noise becomes music. The chaos becomes rhythm. You don't escape the world, you embrace it quietly. Stillness isn't hiding from the storm. It's realizing you are the calm in the center of it. Try this tonight. As you listen, imagine sitting beside a lake at dusk. The air is cool, the light golden. You can see the reflection of trees, the slow ripples spreading outward from your breath. Let your thoughts drift across the surface like leaves. Don't chase them. Don't judge them. Watch how each one touches the water, then disappears. And notice, the water never complains. It simply receives, reflects, releases. That's how the awakened heart works. It doesn't need to hold or push away. It just sees, and seeing is enough. In this quiet seeing, you may notice something subtle, a presence watching even the watcher. Who is aware of awareness itself? That mystery cannot be solved by thought, only felt in stillness. The Buddha called this the unborn, the uncreated, the unconditioned, the place where nothing arises and nothing ends. It's not far away. It's right here, underneath every moment you've ever lived. When you touch it, you know, this awareness is what you've been searching for all along. You've walked through fire, you've floated with water, and now you've come home to the lake, the quiet reflection of everything you've become. Here, there is no need to strive, no need to seek, because the one who was searching has dissolved into the stillness itself. This is what the Buddha meant when he smiled silently under the Bodhi tree. Not victory, not escape, just being perfectly whole in the middle of an imperfect world. So tonight, rest in the lake within you. Let the ripples of thought slow until only reflection remains. Let the moonlight of awareness rest softly upon your heart. You don't have to let go anymore. There's nothing left to hold. You are the water. You are the sky. You are the peace that was never lost. And as the night deepens, perhaps you'll feel the gentle truth the Buddha left for us all. Peace is not found by searching. It is found by stopping. Now the lake grows still. The moon hangs above it, round and bright like a mirror of the soul. And in that reflection, a new light begins to appear. The first hint of dawn. The lake rests beneath the moon, and somewhere beyond its still surface, a faint light begins to bloom. Quiet, patient, alive. Let us breathe with that light now, and rise gently into its warmth, where silence meets a new beginning. The morning after silence, the lake rests beneath the moon, and somewhere beyond its still surface, a faint light begins to bloom. Quiet, patient, alive. Let us breathe with that light now, and rise gently into its warmth, where silence meets a new beginning. The morning after silence. Dawn arrives softly. No fanfare, no noise. Just the slow turning of darkness into light. Mist drifts above the water, and for the first time you can see the outlines of trees, the small ripples catching fire with gold. This is how awakening truly feels. Not a thunderclap, but a gentle unfolding. Not something that happens to you, but something that happens through you. You don't wake up and become someone new. You simply stop pretending to be someone else. The Buddha once said, "Each morning, We are born again. What we do today is what matters most. Morning has always been a teacher. It whispers, begin again. Not because yesterday was wrong, but because every day deserves its own light. The mind that has rested in stillness all night now opens like a flower to the sun. This is not rebirth in the mystical sense. It's the daily miracle of awareness returning. A woman once told me she used to dread mornings. The moment I woke, she said, my thoughts rushed in. Plans, regrets, comparisons, noise. But one morning, after listening to a story like this, she woke differently. She didn't reach for her phone. She didn't run to her checklist. She just lay there, watching light creep across the wall. She said, for the first time, I didn't feel behind. I felt alive. That's what silence gives us. A clear space where life can begin again. Every dawn is a conversation between shadow and light. The world doesn't erase the dark. It softens it. It takes what frightened you and turns it into color. The same can happen inside you. The shadows of your past don't need to disappear. They only need to be met by the light of understanding. The Buddha called this prajna, wisdom born of direct seeing. It's not learned from books. It grows from looking at yourself without judgment. When you see your pain clearly enough, it stops being your enemy. It becomes your teacher. A monk once said, the enlightened person still sees the world, but no longer mistakes it for a prison. When morning comes after silence, you realize the same. Nothing outside has changed. The same job, the same relationships, the same uncertainties. But something within you is different. You no longer cling. You no longer fight the current. You move with it, like light moving through open water. This is freedom, not escaping the world, but being fully awake within it. Take a breath now. Feel how the air moves through you, fresh and unhurried. Each inhale is a promise, you are alive. Each exhale is a reminder, nothing needs to be held. Breathe like this, and notice how even the simplest moments begin to shimmer with gratitude. A bird sings, the floor creaks, somewhere a kettle hums. Life is whispering, I'm still here. And you smile, because for the first time, you're listening. When the Buddha awakened under the Bodhi tree, he didn't rise as a god. He rose as a man who had stopped running, a man who saw the web connecting all things. He saw that suffering ends not when life becomes perfect, but when the heart stops dividing itself into mine and yours, good and bad, then and now. The morning after silence is like that. You wake, and for a moment you can feel the whole world breathing with you. A young monk once asked his teacher, "What is the final step to enlightenment?" The teacher pointed to a single leaf on the ground and said, "To see this leaf and know you are not separate from it." That is the realization that dawn brings. That nothing, not even your thoughts, stands apart from life. The same light that warms your skin also feeds the trees, also glows in the eyes of those you love. You have never been outside the sacred. You were simply looking away. As you listen now, let morning enter you. Let it fill every corner the night once held. Feel it touch your heart gently, not to wake you up, but to remind you that you were never asleep. The Buddha called this sati sampajana, clear awareness, the knowing that knows it knows. When awareness rests in awareness, the illusion of distance dissolves. There is only life living itself through you. Sometimes, after a long journey of letting go, there's a question that lingers. What now? The answer is simple. Live. Live with gentleness. Live with curiosity. Live as if every sunrise were the first. Don't chase meaning. Embody it. Let kindness be your prayer, presence your practice, and love your form of wisdom. A man once told me, I spent my whole life searching for enlightenment, and when I found it, I realized it was just being kind. That's the true morning after silence. Not golden light or mystical visions, but the quiet desire to cause less harm, to see more beauty, to live more honestly. When you understand this, you stop trying to become the light. You simply let it shine through you. So, as the sun rises, let it remind you of something essential. You are not starting over, you are continuing. The same consciousness that watched the stars last night now watches the dawn. The same awareness that endured the fire and flowed with the water now rests in the calm of a new day. You are the witness and the world, the breath and the breathing, the story and the silence between the words. The Buddha once said, "Just as the morning star appeared, I awakened." It wasn't a miracle, it was recognition. And now, as you breathe beneath your own morning sky, you share in that same recognition. The timeless knowing that this moment, this breath, this being is enough. The world stirs gently now. Birdsong rises, light stretches across the lake, and the air carries the scent of new beginnings. You have reached the end of the story, but not the end of awakening, because awakening never ends. It deepens, like light sinking into water. So take one last slow breath. Let it fill you completely, and as you exhale, let everything, all names, all memories, all weight, dissolve into the brightness of morning. The fire has cooled, the water has stilled, the heart is open, and the world, once again, is whole. Thank you for journeying through this night, through fire and water, through silence and awakening. If this story brought you calm, let that calm stay with you as the day begins. Remember, peace isn't something to find. It's something you return to, again and again, with every breath. If this light touched you tonight, please like, share, or subscribe, so we can continue walking this path together. Until our next story, may your heart be steady, your mind clear, and your dreams kind. From the Buddha Sleep Stories, may you rest deeply and awaken gently. The wind between worlds. Morning has passed. The day unfolds. Sunlight warming the leaves. The hum of distant lives beginning again. But somewhere within you, the still lake remains. The silence you met last night hasn't disappeared. It has changed its shape. Now it moves through you like wind through trees. Unseen but always felt. The wind between worlds. The Buddha once said, "The wise person moves through the world like the wind, touching everything, clinging to nothing." Wind is the perfect teacher. It has no shape, yet it shapes mountains. It owns nothing, yet carries everything. It travels freely between worlds, from forest to city, from heart to heart, from silence to sound. When you let go deeply enough, your life begins to feel like that wind. You still move, you still love, You still care, but nothing sticks to you. You flow through the world without losing yourself. A man once told me he could never stop overthinking. He said, "My mind is like a crowded room that never empties." I asked him what he did when the wind blew on a hot day. He said, "I open the windows." I smiled. Then do the same with your thoughts. Letting go doesn't mean forcing silence. It means leaving the windows open so the air of awareness can move through. Thoughts come, thoughts go. They are breezes, not storms. When you stop trying to catch the wind, you begin to feel its kindness. The wind has no past and no future. It doesn't remember where it has been or worry where it will go. It just moves, present, free, alive. That is what the Buddha called suchness, the simple being of things as they are. He said, "When the mind is free from yesterday and tomorrow, the world reveals its true fragrance." The flower was always blooming. We just forgot how to smell it. A young woman once said she feared getting older. "Each year feels like wind slipping through my hands," she told me. But one day, while walking beneath autumn trees, she stopped and watched the leaves falling around her. For the first time, she didn't feel sad. She said, "Maybe time isn't taking anything away. Maybe it's just teaching me how to let go beautifully." That's what the wind teaches. To fall without fear, to dance without destination. When the Buddha's disciples asked him how to live in the world without being of it, he told them, "Be like the wind, touch life, but do not hold it. It's not a command, it's a kindness." It means feel everything but don't drown in it. Love fully, but let love breathe. Even joy must flow. When you hold it too tightly, it turns into anxiety. Freedom is not standing apart from life. It's standing lightly within it. In meditation, you may notice this too. Sometimes the mind becomes still, and then suddenly a thought returns, a memory, a plan, a sound, and just like that, the peace feels lost. But if you watch carefully, you'll see that awareness was never disturbed. The wind moved, but the sky remained. That's the heart of practice. Not to stop the wind, but to remember the sky. There was once a monk who lived near a busy marketplace. Every day, noise filled the air. Shouting, music, carts rattling on stones. A traveler asked him, "How can you meditate here?" The monk smiled and said, "The wind passes through everything. If I resist it, it's noise. If I let it pass, it's music." That is the art of transformation, turning the noise of life into rhythm, the chaos into movement, the world into a dance you can witness with peace. The Buddha said that the awakened heart is like a lotus in the wind. It sways, but it never breaks. It bends with compassion, yet remains rooted in wisdom. When life pushes you, bend, but don't snap. Flow, but don't flee. Let yourself move with kindness through every gust of change. Try this. As you breathe, imagine the wind moving gently through your chest. Each inhale draws it in. Each exhale lets it go. Notice how the body moves without your command, how life breathes itself through you. You are not the one moving the wind. You are the one being moved. Let it guide you. Let it clear what needs clearing. Let it whisper through you like a secret of the earth. A teacher once told his students, when you stop grasping, you start hearing what life has been saying all along. The wind is that message, unwritten, invisible, yet always here. When you slow down enough, you can hear it saying, "You were never apart from me. You were always the breath, not the one who breathes." This is anatta, the insight of non-self, the realization that you are not separate from existence, but existence itself in motion. The Buddha called this freedom parama sukha, the highest happiness. It's not the joy of possession, but the joy of participation. You belong to the world not by owning it, but by flowing with it. Like the wind, you carry the scent of every place you've touched, the warmth of every heart you've passed through, and yet you remain unbound, open, transparent, free. When you live this way, every moment becomes lighter. You walk through pain without resentment. You receive joy without fear. You stop asking life to stay, and instead, you learn to say thank you for every breath that passes. This gratitude is the softest form of enlightenment, the realization that nothing was ever missing. Even the wind, empty by nature, is full of song. Now the day begins to wane. The light changes color. The same breeze that greeted the dawn now carries the scent of evening rain. And you understand, there is no end to this rhythm, only change. The Buddha once said, just as the wind cannot be seen, so too can the truth only be felt. You can't hold it, but you can live inside it, and as you listen now, perhaps you can feel that truth moving through you. The wind between worlds, carrying the silence of the lake, the warmth of the fire, the wisdom of all that has passed. You breathe it in, you breathe it out. Nothing to add, nothing to lose. So tonight, as the sky begins to darken again, remember this. Peace isn't something you keep, it's something you allow to pass through, like wind, like light, like love. The day will fade, the night will return, and the still lake within you will wait quietly for your next breath. Let's rest in that rhythm now, between worlds, between breaths, between the ending and the beginning. The night returns gently, the wind begins to quiet. The golden light of day stretches thin, turning softer, cooler, and kind. The air deepens into blue, and the first hints of night gather along the edges of the world. You can almost feel the earth exhale, a long, slow sigh of relief. The night returns gently. Evening does not rush. It arrives like forgiveness. The sky unbuttons its brightness, one star at a time. The trees hush their conversation. The birds slow their wings, and everything seems to bow, as if the day itself were offering gratitude before sleep. The Buddha once said, just as the moon follows the sun, so too does peace follow understanding. And now, as the moon rises, peace follows you. Not as escape, but as return. For everything that moves must come home, and everything that burns must cool. That is the rhythm of all existence, the breath of the cosmos itself. A man once told me he feared endings. He said every sunset felt like failure, every goodbye like something breaking. But over time, as he practiced letting go, he began to see endings differently. He said, when I stopped fighting dusk, I realized the night wasn't taking the light. It was transforming it. The day does not die at dusk. It simply becomes reflection. The sun doesn't vanish. It rests. And through that rest, it finds renewal. That is what every ending is. A sacred rest. A pause between breaths. A space where new light gathers strength. In the teachings of the Buddha, night represents samadhi, deep concentration, the gathering of mind and heart into stillness. It's not darkness, it's depth. The night doesn't erase the world. It holds it. It gathers everything the day scattered and wraps it in silence. To meditate is to welcome this night within yourself. It is to stop running, to sit with everything, joy, sorrow, confusion, and hold them the way the sky holds the stars. Not tightly, but completely. This is compassion, the willingness to stay even with what is uncomfortable until it softens into understanding. A young woman once confessed that she was terrified of being alone at night. "The silence feels heavy," she said. "It presses on me like a weight." So one night, instead of filling the room with noise, she decided to sit with that silence. She turned off the lights, sat on the floor, and listened. At first, she heard her thoughts shouting. Then, slowly, something quieter appeared. The soft hum of crickets, the creak of the house, the sound of her own breath. Steady, alive. And in that moment, she realized the silence wasn't empty. It was alive. It had been waiting for her to listen. That's the truth of the night. It's not absence. It's presence in its purest form. The Buddha said, "In the silence between thoughts, truth whispers." When the mind grows quiet, that whisper becomes clear. It doesn't shout. It simply says, "You are safe now. You can rest. The world is still moving. The oceans breathe. The stars turn. But you no longer need to chase it. You've found your rhythm again. You've come home to yourself." If the day was movement, then night is remembering. It's when all things return to their source. The river goes back to the sea, the light to the moon, the breath to stillness. And you return to the quiet center of your being. You realize something simple, something the Buddha knew. Nothing in this life was ever truly separate. The fire that burned, the water that cooled, the wind that moved, they were never outside you. They were your teachers, your reflections, your awakening. Now the night returns gently, not as darkness, but as knowing. It knows you've learned to trust silence, to hold stillness without fear, to walk in the unseen without needing a map. It no longer hides from you. It embraces you like an old friend. The Buddha said, "Be a lamp unto yourself." That lamp is awareness. Soft, steady, unshaken. Even when the sun is gone, it keeps shining quietly from within. Try this. Take a slow, deliberate breath. Feel the air enter, cool, easy. Feel it leave, warm, complete. Now imagine that every exhale is the day itself bowing down, laying its burdens at the feet of the night. You don't need to make anything happen. You don't need to stop anything either. Just let the breath find its way, the way the tide finds the shore. Let it carry away everything that no longer belongs. The stars begin to appear, not loudly, but faithfully. Each one a reminder that light doesn't die. It transforms. Just because you can't see the sun doesn't mean it isn't shining. It's simply lighting another part of the world, another part of you. That is how wisdom works. It never disappears. It just changes direction, waiting for you to turn toward it again. The Buddha said, "The moon and truth share one nature. They may be hidden by clouds, but they are never gone. And now the moon rises in you, bright, round, calm." A teacher once said to his students, "Peace is not when nothing happens. Peace is when everything happens and you remain still." That is what the night shows us, how to hold the entire world without being pulled apart by it. Can you feel that right now? the softness in your body, the ease in your breath, the sense that everything, even your worries, has found its rightful place. That's peace, not perfection, just acceptance. The night deepens. You can feel the weight of your body melting into the bed, the rhythm of your breath slowing, the warmth of the blankets surrounding you like the earth holding the ocean. There's nothing left to chase. No more goals to meet, no more roles to perform. Only this, the pure presence of being alive. The Buddha said, "Even in sleep, the mindful heart does not wander. It simply rests in awareness, like a candle resting in its own light." This is how all journeys end, not with a finish line but with an exhale, not with achievement but with gratitude. Gratitude that you are here. Gratitude that life keeps returning, moment after moment, night after night. Because every return is also a beginning. The night has come home, and so have you. You've walked through fire, flowed through water, rested in stillness, and now you are part of the rhythm that never ends. The wind will rise again. The dawn will return. The stories will continue. But for now, for this moment, there is only peace. So rest now and let the night hold you, not as darkness, but as a mother holds her child. Breathe softly as the stars breathe with you. And somewhere, beyond the silence, the first light is already gathering, waiting to be born again. Let's drift toward that light together. Before the next dawn, so rest now and let the night hold you, not as darkness, but as a mother holds her child. Breathe softly as the stars breathe with you, and somewhere beyond this gentle silence, a new light begins to gather, quietly waiting to be born again. Let's drift toward that light together. Before the next dawn. There is a moment before every sunrise when the world holds its breath. The sky is neither night nor morning, the air neither cold nor warm. Everything pauses, as if creation itself is listening. This is the breath between worlds, the heartbeat of eternity. You are in that moment now, not sleeping, not awake, simply resting in the soft balance between what has been and what will be. The Buddha once said, "There is a dawn that does not depend on the sun." He spoke of this, the quiet awakening within, the light that rises not in the sky, but in the heart. It doesn't come suddenly. It grows gently, like awareness unfolding from within silence. Even now, you can feel it. It's the subtle warmth in your chest, the pulse that moves without effort, the calm that whispers, "You are safe." You can rest. In this space before dawn, you are no longer the roles you play, the names you answer to, the stories you defend. All of that has dissolved into the wide ocean of night. What remains is pure being, unbound, vast, luminous. You don't have to call it anything. It doesn't need a name, it simply is. The Buddha called this bhavanga, the stream of consciousness that flows beneath all thought. When the surface stills, the stream reveals itself, timeless, clear, alive. A monk once asked his teacher, "What happens to the mind when it sleeps?" The teacher smiled and said, "It remembers where it came from." Each night when you let go, you return to that original clarity, the place before becoming, before needing, before seeking. You might call it peace, you might call it home, but it's older than both those words. Some people fear the dark hours before dawn. They say it's the loneliest time, but to one who listens, it is the most tender, because this is the hour when the universe whispers its secrets. The noise of the world is gone, and in its absence, the truth has space to speak. If you listen closely, you can hear it now. The hum beneath silence, the pulse beneath stillness, the soft sound of being. A woman once told me she used to wake every morning with a sense of panic. Her mind would race, as if her body had opened its eyes before her soul was ready. One day, she decided to wake slowly. She placed her hand on her heart and whispered, "I'm still here." Just that. No expectations. No rush, she said. For the first time, I felt like I didn't have to fight the morning. I could meet it as a friend. That is the secret of awakening. It's not about becoming something new, but recognizing what has quietly remained. In Buddhist practice, dawn is a symbol of pabhasara citta, the luminous mind, not the mind of thoughts or emotions, but the awareness that witnesses them all. It shines on everything equally, joy and sorrow, pleasure and pain, without preference, without fear. That mind is within you now, like a candle that never went out. Even when you thought it did, the night did not extinguish it. It only gave it space to glow. If you look inward now, you might feel a gentle current, your breath moving, your chest rising, your heartbeat syncing with the rhythm of life itself. That is prana, the life force that connects you to all beings. Each inhale is the universe entering you. Each exhale is you returning to the universe. There was never separation, only breathing in different directions. A student once asked the Buddha, "Why does the dawn come after night?" The Buddha replied, "Because light learns from darkness how to be gentle. That is the wisdom of contrast. Without shadow, light would blind. Without rest, life would exhaust itself. Without silence, truth would go unheard. The night does not oppose the day. It completes it. And so too with your heart. Every grief, every doubt, every ache has prepared you to receive peace without running from it. Try this. Imagine yourself floating in a vast ocean of starlight. The water is cool, your body weightless. You are not trying to swim, you are simply being carried. Each wave that touches you is a memory leaving. Each ripple that passes is another moment forgiven. You don't have to chase the shore. The tide already knows where it's going. You are safe within it. This is surrender, sir. Not defeat, but faith. The Buddha said, "Just as the lotus blooms from the mud, so does wisdom rise from stillness." And soon, you will rise again too, not as someone new, but as the same self, washed clean by silence. This is the blessing of every night. It doesn't erase you, it renews you, it whispers, "Begin again." A monk once described enlightenment as seeing the world as if it were constantly dawning. That's what this moment is, the soft, eternal dawning of awareness. It's not about reaching the light, it's about realizing you are never separate from it. Even in darkness, the stars were within you. Even in stillness, life was flowing through you. Even in sleep, awareness was quietly breathing. Now, the horizon begins to glow, not suddenly, but in a slow, golden sigh. You can feel it before you see it, the warmth brushing your face, the gentle awakening of color. The first birds stir, the air changes its scent, and the world inhales once more. This is the moment the Buddha loved most, when stillness becomes motion, and motion carries stillness with it. The two are never separate. Take one last deep breath. Feel the night inside you bowing to the morning. Feel the quiet turning toward light. You are not waking up from peace. You are waking up as peace. You are not leaving the night. You are carrying it with you. Because the real dawn is not what rises in the sky. It's what rises in you. So as the light returns, smile softly. Whisper thanks to the night for keeping you safe, for teaching you silence, for returning you whole. And when you open your eyes, let them open slowly, as if the world itself were being born again. Let your first breath of the morning be a prayer of gratitude. May I walk gently, may I see clearly, may I love fully. This is how the awakened heart begins its day, with no need to search, no need to prove, only the quiet joy of being alive. The dawn has not yet broken completely, but it is near, and in this gentle, sacred space before the sun, you understand what the Buddha meant when he smiled beneath the Bodhi tree. He had not found something new. He had simply remembered. The same remembrance is blooming in you now, soft, wordless, infinite. The night exhales, the light inhales, and you are the breath between them. The breath that never ends. There is a moment at the edge of dawn when even the universe forgets to move. The stars fade into a soft glow, the wind stops wandering, and the whole world holds its breath, waiting for life to begin again. And in that pause, you realize something quietly profound. The world has never stopped breathing. Neither have you. You and the universe have been inhaling and exhaling together since the very first dawn. The breath that never ends. The Buddha once said, "This body, this breath, they are borrowed from the world." Each inhale is a gift from the trees, each exhale a gentle return. The air that fills your lungs right now was once a mountain breeze, the sigh of an ocean wave, the laughter of a child in another place, the final breath of someone who loved deeply. Everything breathes everything else. Nothing stands alone. And when you feel this, you begin to understand the truth that every being, every life, is part of a single, endless breath. A disciple once asked the Buddha, "Where does life begin and where does it end?" The Buddha smiled and said, "Look to your breath. It begins and ends in every moment, and yet it never truly stops. The breath moves through birth and death without preference, without fear. It does not belong to you or me. It belongs to life itself. When you breathe, you are participating in eternity, and eternity, in return, is breathing through you." Zen Master Thich Nhat Hanh once said, "Breathing in, I know I am breathing in. Breathing out, I know I am breathing out." He called it the miracle of mindfulness. Because when you are aware of just one breath, you are no longer lost in past or future. You are alive, fully, completely, right now. He told a story of walking slowly through a field in France, just breathing, feeling the earth beneath his feet. A student asked, "Master, where are you going?" The Zen master smiled and said, "I am going nowhere. I am only walking in peace." That is the essence of this teaching. When you walk in awareness, you arrive with every step. When you breathe with awareness, you arrive with every breath. A woman once shared that she used to hold her breath without realizing it. Whenever she was anxious, her body froze, as if life itself had paused. But one day, she heard a teaching that said, "Sometimes the most courageous act is simply to breathe." She began practicing slowly. In, out, no judgment, no force. And she said, "I didn't find peace. Peace found me." In the space between breaths, that's what awareness does. It doesn't change the breath. It changes the way you meet it. Breathe in, breathe out. That is the oldest prayer in the world. No words, no temples, no doctrines. Just this soft rhythm of giving and receiving. Every breath is a cycle of impermanence, birth and death, arrival and departure, rising and falling. The Buddha called this anicca, the natural law that keeps the universe alive. When you learn to see each breath as sacred, you stop fearing endings. You see that every ending is only an inhale waiting to return. There was once a farmer who came to Zen Master Thich Nhat Hanh and said, "Master, I am so angry. My son left the farm and doesn't speak to me anymore. I cannot forgive him." The Zen Master looked at him gently and said, "When you hold your breath, you suffer. When you exhale, you are free. Anger is the same. You are holding it too long." The farmer sat silently, and after a while, he took a deep, trembling breath. He said, "I haven't truly breathed in years." And the Zen Master smiled. That is where healing begins. Letting go begins with one conscious breath. Forgiveness is just breathing out what you no longer need. A monk once asked his master, "What is enlightenment?" The teacher said, "To breathe in and know it is the universe breathing, to breathe out and smile. That smile is not about happiness, it is about freedom, the freedom of belonging. When you breathe with awareness, the world breathes with you, and that recognition dissolves the illusion of separation. You no longer live in the world, you live as the world. Try this. As you breathe, imagine your inhale drawing in all things: light, sound, scent, life, and your exhale giving everything back: gratitude, peace, release. You are not keeping anything. You are participating in the great exchange that sustains all existence. This is anatta, the truth of no self. There is breathing, but no breather. There is life, but no separate owner of it. And yet, within that emptiness, there is compassion, because everything you breathe has touched everything else. A young girl once asked Zen Master Thich Nhat Hanh, "Master, what happens when we die?" He smiled softly and said, "My dear, when a cloud becomes rain, it has not died. It has only changed its form. And if you look deeply, you will see me in the rain. Your breath is the same. When it leaves your body, it doesn't vanish. It joins the rhythm of life again. In the trees, in the waves, in the laughter of someone yet to come. To see this clearly is to never fear death again. You understand that every exhale is simply life continuing elsewhere." The Buddha's final breath was described as gentle as falling snow. No resistance, no grasping, only release. He didn't stop breathing. He became the breath that moves through all beings. And perhaps, even now, as you listen, that same gentle breath is flowing through you, not as memory, but as continuation. Each being that comes after is the next inhale of that infinite exhale. Each sunrise, the next breath of creation. Now, as the dawn begins to bloom again, the world inhales with you. The first light warms your skin, and the earth awakens beneath your feet. There is no separation between your breath and the morning breeze. You breathe the world, and the world breathes you. The Buddha said, "To know the breath is to know the universe," because the breath is the bridge between body and mind, between self and other, between life and eternity. So rest now. Breathe softly. You do not need to hold the moment. You only need to let it move through you. The breath will continue, quietly, endlessly, faithfully, carrying you home, again and again, with each rise and fall. The fire has cooled, the water has stilled, the wind has quieted, and the breath remains. It is the thread that binds all things, the rhythm beneath every story, the song that never ends. So breathe and know this. You are not a drop in the universe. You are the breath of the universe itself, the breath that never ends. If you are still here, awake, half asleep, or somewhere in between, know that you have walked through the whole night with awareness. You have listened, breathed, and let your heart open just enough to let the world rest inside it. The Buddha once said, "Peace is every step." Tonight, that peace has walked with you through fire and water, through wind and stillness, through the soft rhythm of your breath. And now, at the edge of dawn, you are not the same as when the story began. You have become quieter, softer, a little more at home within yourself. Somewhere outside your window, the world is preparing to wake. The birds are not in a hurry. The sky does not rush to change its color. Everything happens gently, as if the universe has learned to breathe with you. This is how transformation truly happens. Not in thunder or revelation, but in the quiet courage to stay present with one breath, one moment, one heartbeat at a time. A monk once said, "The miracle is not to walk on water, but to walk on this earth. Awake." That miracle is happening now. Not in some distant temple, but in the calmness inside your chest. With every breath, you return home. Thich Nhat Hanh called this coming back to your true home, the here and now. When you are home in the present moment, you are protected. You do not need to search for peace. Peace is already holding you. So as the story ends, take one last slow breath in, and a long, soft breath out. Let this moment fill you with quiet gratitude for your body that carried you here, for your mind that is learning to rest, for your heart that still chooses kindness in a world that sometimes forgets how to be kind. You have done enough tonight. You do not need to fix or prove anything. Just be, the Buddha said. You, yourself, as much as anyone in the universe, deserve your love and affection. So let that love reach inward now, a gentle warmth rising from your heart, like morning sunlight through mist. Perhaps tomorrow will bring challenges, questions, or small storms, but remember this breath, it will always bring you back. It is your refuge, your friend, your silent teacher, and when you forget, you can always return here, to this quiet temple of sound and silence, where the stories are just reminders that peace was never lost. If this journey has brought you calm tonight, carry a little of that peace into your day. Share it, not by words, but by the way you listen, the way you walk, the way you breathe. Because every peaceful heart creates a peaceful world. And if you wish to walk with us again, to rest in new stories, new nights, new breaths, you are always welcome here. You can stay connected by simply subscribing. So this sanctuary finds you again whenever you need rest, whenever you need to remember how to come home. Now, let the sound of your breath fade into the soft music. Let the night fold around you like a robe of stillness. No more effort, no more becoming, only this, breathing, resting, being. May you sleep deeply. May you wake gently. May you carry peace like light in your hands. And when the next story begins, under another sky, with another dawn, may you remember that the breath you take then is the same breath that carried you here. Peace to you, dear listener. Peace to your heart, your home, and your every tomorrow. This was the Buddha Sleep Stories. May you rest in the breath that never ends. The first light arrives quietly, not to wake you, but to remind you that you have never stopped being alive. The same breath that carried you through the night now turns golden in the dawn. Nothing has changed, and yet everything feels new. This is rebirth, the simple miracle of opening your eyes and finding that peace has been here all along. The first light of rebirth. The first light arrives quietly, not to wake you, but to remind you that you have never stopped being alive. The same breath that carried you through the night now turns golden in the dawn. Nothing has changed, and yet everything feels new. This is rebirth, the simple miracle of opening your eyes and finding that peace has been here all along. The first light of rebirth. Morning has always been a teacher. It never shouts. It simply appears, patient, inevitable, and full of grace. The world stretches and sighs, as if remembering itself. And so do you. You breathe in, and something ancient awakens within you. A memory older than words, the knowing that every ending is just a beginning wearing another face. The Buddha once said, "With every breath, the world is born anew." And when you look closely, you see that truth shimmering everywhere, in the dew on the leaves, in the slow unfolding of light across your room, in the quiet heartbeat beneath your hand. There is a story told by Zen master Thich Nhat Hanh. One morning, while watching the sunrise over the hills of Plum Village, he said to his students, "This sunrise has never happened before, and it will never happen again. If you miss it, it is gone forever." Then he smiled. Each breath is the same. It is a sunrise you can hold inside your body. When you hear that, something softens. You realize that the sacred isn't far away. It's this very breath, this very morning, this moment you almost overlooked. A woman once told me she woke one day after a long depression and felt sunlight on her face for the first time in months. It was just light, she said, but it felt like forgiveness. She cried, not from sadness, but from relief. She said, "The world didn't change. I just remembered how to open my eyes." That is rebirth, not escaping life, but re-entering it with tenderness. The first light of morning forgives everything. It doesn't ask where you've been. It simply says, "Welcome back." When the Buddha attained enlightenment, the first thing he saw was the morning star. He didn't see something outside himself. He saw the reflection of awakening within all beings. He said, "Wonderful, wonderful. All living things already have the nature of awakening. That is the light of rebirth. Not a miracle that descends upon you, but a realization that was waiting quietly within you all along. You don't have to become someone new. You only need to remember who you already are." The morning light moves through the trees now, slipping between the branches like soft silk. The world seems fragile, and yet, in that fragility, there is a strength that can only come from gentleness. Thich Nhat Hanh often spoke of beginning anew. He said, "To begin anew is to see each person, each day, as if for the first time, without the weight of yesterday. That is not forgetting, it is forgiveness in motion. So as the light touches your skin, let it wash away the dust of yesterday. Let yourself begin again, as if this morning were your first moment on earth." A man once said to the Buddha, "I am tired of failing." The Buddha asked, "Are you still breathing?" The man nodded. "Then you have not failed," the Buddha replied. "As long as breath continues, possibility continues." That is the first light of rebirth, the possibility hidden in the simplest act of being alive. You don't need to succeed. You only need to stay present long enough for life to show you how to begin again. Look around you. Every blade of grass, every ripple of water, every bird song, they are all acts of faith. They rise without promise of tomorrow. They trust the light enough to open their eyes again. You too are allowed that trust. You can rise gently without knowing what comes next. You can breathe into the uncertainty and find comfort there, because faith is not believing in something unseen. It is the willingness to see what has always been here. The Buddha taught that rebirth happens in every moment, not only after death. He said, "Each time we return to the breath, we are reborn." It is not dramatic. It is quiet, like morning itself. You may not notice it, but each time you forgive, each time you choose kindness, each time you pause before reacting, you are being born again. And perhaps that is why the world gives us dawn every day, a reminder that even light must rest before it rises. A student once asked Thich Nhat Hanh, "How do I keep hope when everything seems broken?" The Zen master picked up a small leaf from the ground and said, "This leaf will one day become soil, and that soil will nourish another tree. Is that not hope?" You see, rebirth is not about escaping decay. It's about understanding it. The same soil that holds endings is also where beginnings grow. Every tear becomes water for a future seed. So even if you are hurting, you are still becoming. Even if you feel lost, you are still part of the turning earth. The sun has now risen fully. The air smells of rain and leaves. The world hums softly, alive, awake, and yet still peaceful. Take a breath and notice. You are both the observer and the observed, the witness and the miracle. The breath doesn't belong to you, but it moves through you like music passing through an open window. Let it move freely. Don't hold it, don't name it. Just be the space it passes through. That is freedom. Soon the day will unfold. Voices, plans, stories, all waiting for you. But you can carry this light with you. You can walk through noise without losing the silence inside. You can act without hurry, speak without judgment, live without fear. Because the peace you touched in the night was not a dream. It was you, your most natural state. As Thich Nhat Hanh wrote, "Waking up this morning, I smile. 24 brand new hours are before me. I vow to live fully in each moment and to look at all beings with eyes of compassion. Let that be your prayer for the day. Let it be your first light. Soft, gentle, forgiving. Smile now, because you have been reborn not into perfection but into presence. The first light fills the world, and in its warmth you realize the cycle continues. Night into day, breath into breath, life into life. There is no ending, only a flowing, a returning, a remembering. So as you rise, carry this silence within you. Carry this peace like a candle through your day, and know the same light that wakes the earth each morning also wakes within you. The day you begin again, the world is awake now. The air carries the hum of life, footsteps, laughter, the soft rustle of beginnings. You open your eyes and light pours in. It's not just the sun that has risen, it's you, the day you begin again. Morning doesn't ask for permission. It simply arrives with the quiet certainty of renewal. No matter what yesterday held, loss, fear, or doubt, the day begins again, and so do you. The Buddha once said, "Every morning we are born again." What we do today is what matters most. It sounds simple, but it holds the power to transform everything. This moment, this breath, is the beginning. You step outside. The air is cool, the sky wide, the ground solid beneath your feet. For a brief second, you stand between heaven and earth and realize how sacred this ordinary day truly is. The mind may rush ahead, emails, worries, tasks, lists, but you remember the silence that shaped you last night. You remember the breath that carried you through darkness. And something inside whispers, "I can live from that peace." That whisper is mindfulness. It's the bridge between meditation and life. A story is told about a monk who once asked his teacher, "Master, after enlightenment, what do we do?" The master replied, "Chop wood, carry water." It is the simplest answer and the most profound. It means return to the ordinary, but return with awareness. When you eat, just eat. When you walk, just walk. When you listen, truly listen. Because each small act, done with presence, becomes an offering. This is how awakening moves through the world, quietly, invisibly, like sunlight through leaves. Zen master Thich Nhat Hanh often said, "People think walking on water is a miracle, but the real miracle is to walk on the earth. To feel your feet touch the ground, to breathe, to smile. That is the miracle of being alive." He taught his students a simple practice called beginning anew. He said, "Each day, each relationship, each breath, you can begin again. Not by erasing the past, but by meeting it with compassion. Every moment gives you a chance to forgive, to understand, to love again." A woman once shared her story at Plum Village. She said, "I used to wake up and dread the day. Everything felt heavy, like walking through fog." Zen master Thich Nhat Hanh listened and said softly, "Try to wake up like the sunrise. Don't force it, just allow it." The next morning, she sat up slowly in bed, and instead of rushing, she simply whispered, "Thank you." She said it again and again until tears came, not of sadness, but of relief. That thank you became her morning meditation. She said, It changed nothing in the world, but it changed how I walked through it. Gratitude is the first act of awakening. When you are grateful, the heart opens like a window. Light enters easily. You start to notice the kindness of strangers, the softness of air, the rhythm of your own footsteps. You see that life was never against you. You just forgot to look closely. The Buddha taught that awakening doesn't happen once. It happens every time you remember to see, so see this day clearly. Its imperfections, its beauty, its small miracles, they are all part of the same truth, that life is always beginning. Sometimes you may stumble. The peace you felt last night might fade under noise or stress. You might forget the breath, lose your calm, feel the old ache of striving return. That's okay. The Buddha said, just as rain cannot stain the sky, suffering cannot stain the true mind. Even when the clouds return, the sky remains vast and blue behind them. You don't have to fight the storm. You just have to remember the space that holds it. That remembering, that gentle turning back, is mindfulness. It is how you begin again, 1,000 times a day if needed. A man once came to Zen Master Thich Nhat Hanh and said, "Master, I am so busy. I want to meditate, but I have no time." Zen Master smiled and replied, "When you wash the dishes, wash them as if you were bathing a baby Buddha." The man laughed, but later understood. Meditation is not about stopping life. It is about living it fully. When you drive, breathe. When you speak, be kind. When you rest, rest completely. Every moment is a temple when you meet it with attention. As you walk through this day, let your actions become prayers, each word a seed, each step a blessing, each breath a small bow to the miracle of being here. You don't need perfection. You only need sincerity. Let this be your vow today, to live gently, to cause less harm, to love without needing to own. This is how awakening breathes through the daylight. In small, human ways, when evening comes again, you will return to rest. The circle will close, only to open once more. The Buddha called this samsara, the endless turning of birth and death. But he also said, when we awaken, samsara becomes nirvana. The cycle doesn't need to end. You just need to see it clearly. Every dawn, every dusk, every inhale and exhale. They are not traps. They are invitations. Each one whispers, begin again. As you move through this day, remember, the breath you carry is ancient. It has passed through forests, oceans, and hearts before yours. It connects you to everything that has ever lived. When you feel lost, return to that breath. When you feel heavy, return to that light. When you feel alone, remember that even loneliness breathes. This is the day you begin again. Not by changing the world, but by remembering that you belong to it. Zen Master Thich Nhat Hanh once wrote, "Smile, breathe and go slowly. Let that be the rhythm of your day. Smile, even if it's small. Breathe, even when it hurts. Go slowly, even when the world runs fast. The miracle isn't in what you achieve, but in what you notice, in how you touch life without rushing past it. That is the practice. That is awakening in action." Now, as sunlight fills the sky, you realize something quiet and beautiful. The night didn't end. It just became day. The meditation didn't stop. It simply changed form. You never left the path. You only stepped deeper into it. So take one last conscious breath. Let it rise. Let it fall. Let it bless the world as it leaves you. And as you walk into the day, carry this peace in your steps. Carry this light in your voice. Carry this breath as your prayer. Because this very moment is the day you begin again. The day you begin again. If you've made it this far, thank you. Thank you for walking through the night with me, for breathing with me, for choosing stillness in a restless world. Every time you listened, you added one more drop of peace to the ocean we share. The Buddha once said, "Thousands of candles can be lit from a single flame, and the flame will not be diminished." If this story has lit even a small candle in your heart tonight, let it shine for yourself and for others who are still searching in the dark. And if you'd like to continue walking together through new stories, new nights and new ways to rest, you can stay close to this sanctuary. Just tap subscribe, and this gentle space will always find its way back to you whenever you need calm, whenever you need to breathe again. Each new video is another door, another quiet night to come home to. And the more hearts that gather here, the brighter our shared silence becomes. So breathe in and breathe out. May this light follow you into your day. May you sleep peacefully, live kindly, and remember, the world breathes with you. Until we meet again. This was the Buddha Sleep Stories. May your next breath be a peaceful one.